was what I was searching for specifically. And I started to look at some of the annotations individually, like canned pumpkin recipes and like I wanted mostly major ones. So I was mostly focusing on the major ones. Desserts with pumpkin. Okay. Easy. Okay. And as I started looking at these, and I was looking at the related interests. So this one doesn't have any. Here, this one has some. The more I looked at these related interests, the more I found ones about a bake sale that were specific. So fall cookies recipe. Let's see that one. That's a broad idea. Of course, there's none found there today. Um, there's 11 million interests on Pinterest, so it can be difficult to like get back to exactly where you were before. So it's really important um, to note the keywords when you find them. Um, but anyway, I found this whole corner that was fall bake sale treats. And when I looked at the top pins for fall bake sale treats, there really weren't any that were angled towards fall. There was lots of general pins, bake sale ideas, easy things to sell at a bake sale, but there was none that were fall specific. And so I saw an opportunity and I made a board for fall bake sales and I did a major idea post for fall bake sales. And even though fall bake sale ideas wasn't one of my top paying performing posts, doing this experiment on a new account allowed me to see it develop in a way that you can't see on an established account. And I saw that fall bake sale treats was the first keyword to do well broadly, like not just for one pin for one post. It started to take off because remember the minor ideas are all pinned to the major ideas board, and I started to get traffic in my top list of pins to each of the minor ideas that had the bake sale targeting in the title and went on the bake sale board. You could really see the pattern in a way that you couldn't see it on an established account, because lots of these like smaller clicks that you get, they don't even make it into your top 50 pins on your established account. You can't see the pattern. But because the fall bake sale ideas are related to these other broader, more competitive keywords, then you could see that people who engaged with fall bake sale ideas, the broader, more competitive things started to get into their feeds and they started to engage with those too, because pin relationship was developed between my fall bake sale ideas and fall treats, for example. And so I've been really paying attention inside the related interests for clusters of things that are not only totally new post ideas, like Tony said, but that are new keyword angles that I can target with my minor ideas clusters. For Christmas, I did also do the Christmas bake sale ideas because I saw that there was a similar gap there, and the keyword was on my radar. But for Christmas, I found Christmas treats to gift. That is a really underserved opportunity. There was loads of keywords around things to make to give away, cookie ideas for Christmas gift boxes or whatever, just tons. And no good content specifically serving it. There might have been a pin or two here and there for it, but it wasn't targeted that way on the pin, in the title, in the description, on its own board. There was an open opportunity there. So that's something that PinClicks has offered that in the past, when I was opening every pin in a logged out window, I would sometimes catch those opportunities like, oh, okay, well, I don't have a post on this, or I haven't targeted this post with this idea, and here it is. But until I saw it all laid out on the screen in front of me and saw it 10 times, it didn't click the way that it clicks now. Okay. Lost my train of thought. I got my notes. Gotta go back to them. Okay. So I think now we've kind of done like broadly how the annotations work and why I'm using them, but let's start at the beginning of looking for a keyword. And this is kind of where I had said, Tony, I hope that you help also because I don't ideate from keyword research. I've just been on Pinterest so long that I ideate from my brain and then I find the keywords to match. You go the opposite way. And I think that's what people want to see. They want to see planning from your research point. Am I right in that assumption, everybody?
Yeah, it makes sense.
It does make
And
sense. It does.
and I always start with, for the most part, Pinterest trends. And that's where you started
Yes,
with
I
this
did for
site for
this
the
site.
first time, right?
You
Like
talked me into it.
yeah, that worked out kind of well, huh?
Yes.
It's a great starting point, and it's better if you've got a very Pinterest friendly niche, right?
Yeah.
So, okay, I think we have some travel bloggers. We've got quite a
Uh-huh.
few because they're like, give me example for travel.
Travel is it's such a
So
great one.
it is. If someone wants to give me an example for travel, that would be great. Um, I wish I was at my regular desktop so I could see the chat and my screen. So someone's just gonna have to narrate for me. Okay.
Okay.
I put in, well, this is a different example I was looking up, but where I would like to start usually is at the topic, like the biggest topic level, right? So the biggest interest, which would be travel. And so travel is an interesting one because it can be good in the sense that it's a mix of visual, but people also want the information too.
It's like food that way.
Yes, it can be very much like food, maybe not quite as it's not as popular as food. I
Sure.
haven't that I've ever seen. But I really like the idea of, okay, so there's lots of outfit related stuff. That's not really what I'm going for. If you're in travel and you're not doing outfits, like I feel like you're missing out on a, a lot of traffic from Pinterest. But I know it's a very different from like your typical Google style of creating content where you're like doing, tips for a Puerto Rico vacation or something. I was trying to find one for related to Paris. So there's nothing in here related to Paris.
What
So
about European summer if you start there?
ooh, European.
I
There
saw
we
it.
go. Yeah,
Okay.
European summer.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a very broad keyword. Although I could see that would be a good board right there that you could have
Interesting.
multiple because someone is going to experience a European summer, right? And so there's going to be lots of additional ideas that they're going to want to consider. And so, gosh, that's really broad. So you could cover all sorts of European destinations specific to that summer. I mean, you can create a whole content cluster around European summer. You could probably create 100 blog posts just around European summer.
Tony, can you
So
explain, because we still have questions about the content cluster. So what would the
Sure.
okay.
European summer content cluster look like?
Yeah, good question. Okay, so let's take this keyword, European summer, and let's go to pin clicks and move this down here. Okay. Oh, let's see. Here we go. So there's a couple different places you can start. And this is where I'm working on a better tool for keyword research. I pulled up a picture. I shared this in a couple different places of what I'm currently working on. This is a mock-up of basically one keyword tool that you can go to within PinClicks. You put in the keyword such as European summer, and it's going to search the the Interest Explorer tool as well as the Pinterest keyword research tool. And it's going to consolidate keywords that it finds between the two tools. And it's going to give you one master list. And that way, then we'll show you the search volume if we have that, and then all the other fun things like interest, related interests, taxonomy, popularity. And you can filter that all out. So I'm hoping this can come out in January, February of next year. But for now, there are several different tools to use. And when I'm not doing my own keyword research these days. I train my team to do it, but I will preface this and say it's really important to understand your broadest, most popular keywords in your niche. And that's going to require a bit of keyword research of just going back to Pinterest trends, right? If you're in travel, like looking up that travel interest and going through all those keywords, and drilling down on some of those keywords there in Pinterest trends, as well as pin clicks. And like literally, you might need to take a whole week to figure out, okay, what are like my top 100 plus keywords? Because that's always a great starting point. But here we've got the European summer. So you can get some keyword ideas for European summer. So we're looking at this from a cluster standpoint, right? And so this could be your major idea, which you could also have like sub-major ideas under this. Depending on the niche, you can really kind of branch out and have all sorts of ideas. All right, so I'm going to sort this by position because the thing I'm curious about is looking up the annotations to see what other ideas that I can cover? Because not everyone who's creating content for Pinterest is looking at these annotations for these top ranking pins as ideas of blog posts that they can cover, right? So I see Italy summer would be a good one. You could do a whole like travel guide on going to Italy during the summer, and that could be rolled up into this European summer idea. So you could have like a listicle of, the ultimate European summer travel plan, and like you could include one of those things being about Italy, right? So you can kind of have broader destinations, and then you create a blog post that's a major idea for an Italy summer, and you've got individual ideas of things that they can do in Italy. And you can break that down even further, like specific cities in Italy, and then you can have multiple ideas what to do within that specific city. So you can see how in some niches they're great because you can really layer in all of your topics and keywords. If you build them out as clusters in a shorter amount of time, then it's just going to allow Pinterest to increase the exposure of those pins and the content that you're creating to these users who are interested in a European summer and looking for ideas. So I know, what do you think, Carly? Like we haven't really talked about that, kind of leveling down your major ideas and your minor ideas.
Yeah. So I think that in different niches, and this is the most challenging thing about Pinterest. And we talked about this week on our podcast. And that is that the reason that these conversations about Pinterest feel so overwhelming, and the reason that it takes a long time to go through the ideas, and the reason that we can't just give you step A, step B, step C, is that all niches are different on Pinterest. The same concepts apply, but every niche needs to be considered a little differently. And I always think that the healthiest place to start with your content planning for your niche is, would the user who is searching for this thing engage with all of the content on this board, which I mentioned earlier, but this is such a tangible example of how we could approach this. So when the user searches European summer, or when they engage with a piece of European summer content, what are they looking for? And somebody here in the chat has mentioned all these pins that are up right now ranking for this search, they don't really have click-through intent. And does that indicate to us that European summer as a term is potentially too broad, the way that you just said, like this is really broad and we need to like level down inside of our major ideas? So European summer might be a major idea. You might be able to pin a ton of stuff to your European summer board, but in this niche with this example, are we better off to level down. And I think the level down that you found here is this pin that you're hovering over right now that is
Mhm.
specific to outfits
Mhm.
has completely different annotations than the pin right above it that you were on before. Can you go back up to that one?
Yeah.
So that one is destination ideas and travel and like the
Right.
aesthetic of Italy and Europe. And so with this broad niche, I think you are right. I would level down the inside the major idea. Um did that make sense?
Yeah. And I would
Yeah.
totally go after European summer.
You'd still make the broad board
I would,
too and put it all
oh,
on that board.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
100%.
yeah. Okay.
Because you want to piggyback off of this. When someone searches for European summer, then now, depending on the pens they engage with, especially ones that are more travel oriented, well, now it's associating these interests, these annotated interests to that user. And so now I probably won't rank very well for European summer, but maybe my blog post on Italy summer will, because for those users who have searched for that broader European summer idea. Does that make sense? So I'm kind of piggybacking off some broad searches where I might not rank number one, but that's okay because it's like a capturing a lot of people into that big idea, and then Pinterest is going to start serving them pins that are related to it, and that's what I'm also going after.
Right. Yeah. The overlapping related annotations and how you can use those
Yep,
to draw your content out into the feed. Absolutely. Um,
that's right.
travel is one of those ones where, hey, question that I'm sorry, this is feels unrelated, but
Mhm.
if you scroll back up to the top of this screen here,
Yeah.
you've noticed that there's like 9,000 saves on that pin, and then like these are kind of small numbers for a trend. Um, I have been asking myself, okay, what words can I find related to European summer that have way more saves? What words, if I open those annotations on that first pin there and I look at them,
Okay.
is there one that has pins that have a way more saves than 9,000? And is that a better general annotation for my most major idea than the one that I happen to identify? Because in Pinterest, it's always a
Hmm.
little bit of a guessing game. What's the best one? Like there's no
Yeah.
good way to find the best one. And so like these ones, these are all outfit related. They're kind of the next level
Right.
down. But
Yeah.
the top pin, they were kind of more general also.
Yeah.
Um
Those were more travel related. For that top one. Yeah.
yeah.
So you're going to see a lot of outfits, right? So and if you're doing outfit topics, great. Then that would be something to cover. Um, as like those could be an individual. I don't know if it would be considered a minor idea because you can have multiple outfit ideas in one blog post,
Yes.
right? So you can
Yes.
continue to add outfit ideas over time, like Italy outfits, so you could take that down. Oh, not that spreadsheet. Italy, right? So you can do Italy summer, and then you can take that down to, Italy outfits, right?
Okay.
As a blog post. So you see how we're kind of working our way down here. And
Okay.
what's great about going through this process here, starting at the top pens, is that you're going to find different ideas that may not overlap versus using the keyword research tool and the interest explorer tool. So if we just do a search for European summer here, then it's going to show you anything that people have searched for with European summer in the search. And so it's going to keep the focus very narrow, right? So we're looking at, okay, the outfit ideas, okay, Spain, but that's aesthetic. I ignore aesthetic keywords. Um, you've got beaches, right? So this could be a topic. Okay, but again, it's still, European summer specific, whereas so this is another sub idea, just like Italy summer, but it's very specific to European summer versus Italy summer. That's not going to show up in the search. You know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
it's European summer
Yeah.
that's showing up. And so you kind of limit yourself in a way by just using the keyword research tool or just using the interest explorer tool because it's searching a specific keyword, you know what I mean, and whether it contains these words or not. And so this is so a great process to go through to find additional, topics that you can cover. But that's
This
where
is why I like to open them all across the top and then look at the annotated interests for them because those ones don't have to contain the same word.
that's right.
And so then you can branch out. I'm just going to interrupt you for a minute, Tony, because we need to
Sure.
clarify.
Okay.
I
Um, Therese
have some
said,
questions. Yeah.
yeah, okay,
Yeah.
yeah. I wanted to do this question first because it was really important for this concept. So she said, are we searching annotations for the boards or the individual pins that we pin the board to? And she said she's getting confused about this, which is fair because it's really overwhelming.
Yeah. Okay.
And I think that the answer is different across niches. So, I mean, there is no, this is the thing about Pinterest that is so hard. There is no right and wrong with this.
Yeah.
I think that too granular is not ideal for boards. Whether or not something is too granular or not depends on your end user and what they are going to be typing into Pinterest. And so, I mean, it does take a little bit of familiarity with your niche. People might search for Italy outfit ideas. They might not search for yellow sweaters to wear in Italy in the summer. Like it's too granular is a problem. So what would you say to that? How do you know when it's a board title versus a post topic? And in my mind, I've clarified this between major and minor ideas. That is going to be different across niches. I know in your big site that you use, your minor ideas are often also your major ideas. That's different than is possible in food.
That's right. Yeah. So if you do, so the plan is to have like one major European summer travel guide, right? So I would create a board for that. And I would also create a board for Italian summer ideas because that could be its own standalone thing where people, maybe they're not doing a European summer vacation. Maybe they're going to Italy for the summer. So you can reach both types of people. So that's a major idea. I'd create a board on that. Same thing with European summer beach, because there are so many beaches and so many different ideas and so many different angles, like not only different locations and different beaches, but maybe you have kids with you. Maybe you're looking for dog friendly, right? So there's just so many different ideas with this. I would create a board for your European summer beach. And it's great because when you create these specific blog posts underneath it, like a specific beach, you could even take that down even further and do like specific beaches, like say in France, you could just do like French beaches or Parisian beaches, whatever keyword you're using, right? And so you can promote that blog post within this board, the European summer beach, but you can also promote it and create a board for, the best beaches in France.
Okay,
right?
so speaking of annotated interests, what if you use these annotated interests as some of your subheadings within your blog post?
Yeah, so we're not there yet. So right now we're coming up with blog post ideas and board ideas.
Okay, so you can answer that later.
Then, yeah, that's right. So then, and I don't know if this is the best way to lay this out for people. Hopefully, kind of see the hierarchy as we kind of work our way down. You could also, I guess, do like a bullets. Maybe a Google Doc would have been better for this example. I just tend to go to spreadsheets first.
Me too.
So now, like with the best beaches in France, you could have a sub idea. We could stop here and just do. I'm just going to make up we can do south of France, right? You can do beaches in the south of France, like best beaches in the south of France. Now, would you create a board around that? Because this could have lots of ideas that you could put into it.
Once you get that granular, would you wait and see how the broad topic does before you start creating boards at that level?
Sure. And it also depends on how you want to approach this. If you're going to say this is the 10 best beaches in France and south of France, I probably wouldn't create a board on this one if you're not going to continue to add new ideas to it. If you're just stopping there, then I would create this blog post, 10 best beaches in the south of France, and put it inside this board. So this would be a board, right? It's a major idea. And I would put it inside that board, best beaches in France. And you could also put it under European summer beach vacation ideas, right? The 10 best beaches, because people, maybe they don't know they want to go to France. Maybe they haven't landed on that, but they want to go to Europe. So give them this idea of the 10 best beaches in the south of France. So you would create a pin and link to that post under your European summer beach board. You would not do that obviously under Italy because it's a different country. And I would also create a pin for this 10 best beaches idea, and I'd put it within the European summer board as well. Because again, people are looking for ideas. Maybe they don't know exactly where they want to go in their European summer, but maybe they see a blog post and a picture that catches their eye of like 10 best beaches in the south of France. I'm like, oh, maybe the south of France would be interesting to go.
And Tony, what about this whole aesthetic thing that we're seeing all over Pinterest? Yeah. Where would the aesthetic fit into your architecture here?
So aesthetic, that sometimes can lead to a lot of saves, and that can send some good signals. If you want to spend the time creating those kind of pens for aesthetic and save them to these boards, great. Like just know that you might not get a lot of actual click-throughs to your site, but it could help boost those boards a bit if those get a lot of saves. And you also have to try to understand, and I don't know the travel niche I'm not in it, so I don't know it very well. And I don't know if the type of people who are looking for the aesthetic, are they really going to be travelers? Or are they just kind of dreaming and wishing and never really travel? Then I probably wouldn't really waste my time targeting them since they're not travelers. But maybe they are, I don't know. You would have to know that. And you would have to test and see, I guess, if you don't already know.
Yeah, I think I just want to go back to this idea of like, is this a blog post annotation or is it a board annotation? And I think you've done a really good job of making this clear. I want to know if it is clear for everybody listening, because it is difficult across niches. But for me, it comes down to, is this something that the user is going to broadly search for? And then does the post go on that board based on whether or not that person is going to engage with it? So 10 beaches in the south of France. I mean, people might broadly search for beaches in the south of France, but it's going to be a lot less people than are searching for European summer, probably, because it's a more granular idea. So yeah, is that clear to everybody after seeing Tony's like spreadsheet here, which is great. The spreadsheets really help people.
People are asking for a 10-minute break.
Okay.
Yes, we can do that. All right.
And then when we get back from the break, we can walk through keywords for a specific blog post.
Sure. That sounds really good. I think that your process of getting them via pin clicks will still be more easy to follow along with than my process of getting them. So,
and before we go to break, there was somebody that was asking, how long are we seeing this going for from here at this point? Do we have another hour? Do we have another 2 hours? What does it look like? I have a bunch of general kind of questions related to your appetizer site at the end as well.
Okay. Yeah, we can do all of those.
Yeah.
I am getting to the end of like the notes that I have that are very important for me to share as far as strategy goes. But I know that there is going to be other people who like will have lots more questions about Renee 4 more hours. I really think it could be like another hour and a half. I think like with questions, because I'm getting close to what I'm going to share. Tony has a really cool spreadsheet that he is going to share that has some insights, but that shouldn't take very, very, very long, I don't think. And it's going to be mostly questions. Can I show you how to make pins? Yes, I was going to demonstrate it in PicMonkey because I don't make pins in Canva. And so I'm pretty slow at it. I can make a demonstration of how to make them in Canva and post it in the group.
I can do that too if you want me to, Carly.
Or Sarah can do it. Okay, that would be great because I don't use Canva for a lot of reasons. PicMonkey is way easier for me, and so I'm going to do that. But yeah, let's break. I think that we are getting to most of the questions that are asked live. So, and I mean other questions that we haven't gotten to, if people feel like we've missed them, we are going to do a whole Q&A section shortly here because I'll have gone through just about everything that I thought were the important points to hit, but I know that during this discussion we will have brought up questions that you guys think are important points, and so we will do that.
Well, and there are some very specific questions to the new site, directed to the new site too, that we can do in a
I will answer all of those also.
Okay.
So are there any questions that were specifically about the keyword research, kind of the ideation part that we just did? Because we are going to do more on keyword research right now. Tony is going to.
Yeah, I've got some questions for Tony specifically.
Great.
But I'm not seeing anything about ideation in particular.
Okay.
Cool. Ready for me to pick back up?
Yeah.
I'm ready.
Okay, cool. So what I'm curious about is, okay, so here I'm on the Interest Explorer tool, and I want to type in, I'm going to do France and beaches to see, because I did south of France beaches. Okay, great. This is showing up here. It has a taxonomy and has related interests with those check marks. To me, that's a great sign because it means Pinterest better understands this topic. And it better understands a topic, then it knows how to better distribute your pins to users who are interested in that topic. So right now we're not showing volume and followers yet, just a caveat. You're going to see that it's pending right now as we continue to crawl millions and millions of pages to get these numbers. It's taken us a little while. We'll get there. And my developer, I told him like, hey, can you build a little thing? And he's going to do it where as soon as you load an interest page, if we don't have the volume yet, we're going to pull it for you. And like, I think within a minute or so, it will populate. So that'll be cool. All right. So to me, this is validating South of France beaches of a good blog post idea. Now, I'm always curious to look at the top ranking pins. This first one, Dreamy South of France itinerary, 7 days. Okay. So this is a kind of a narrow idea on like a kind of an end of the road 7 days in the French Riviera, right? So it's not specific to, well, I don't know France very much. So like, is the Riviera part of south of France? Like, is that another like synonymous name? Best beaches south of France. 12
I don't
best
know, but
beaches
the
south of
travel
France.
bloggers will know
Yeah.
when
Yeah,
they're
they'll
doing
know.
this.
Right, they'll know. And again, that's the limitation of if you don't know the niche very well by doing a bunch of keyword research, and hopefully you do know the niche very well, then that's to your competitive advantage. So there are people out there that are getting into Pinterest and they're going into niches that they just don't know very well.
Yes.
And so they're going to choose topics and not choose topics with kind of one arm behind their back in a way. And so that's to your advantage if you know it very well. So to me, this is kind of the 12 best beaches in the south of France. Now, the question is, do you choose these beaches based on keyword research, or do you just choose like your own? Like, I don't care if people are searching for these beaches in particular or have any interest in these beaches. I want it to be my own curated list. For travel, because I would lean towards, hey, you're the curator, include the 12 beaches. Who cares if they're official interests or not in Pinterest? I mean, it would be great if there was overlap, right? So if we check out this blog post. And also, I just want to caveat here that travel is a difficult niche for Pinterest. There's a lot of nuance to it. It's a harder one. So it's a good example to show because I think a lot of this could be applied to other niches, but it's also just a a difficult balance. It's because I think what people get stuck on, especially if they're coming from Google, is what what I see with travel bloggers is so there's this beach. Okay, I'm going to just Tropez. Okay, so people would create a whole like blog post on like a travel guide to Saint Tropez, which is great. It's great for Google. May not do well with Pinterest because a lot of people don't even know Saint Tropez. Like if they do know of it, they might search Pinterest about it, but they might be more inclined to search Google for that information because they're looking for ideas for beaches. And so that's our job as creators to give them those ideas. So to create a whole blog post and a bunch of pins just for St. Tropez, I don't know if it's worth the time. Maybe if you've got the extra free time and you've covered like all these major ideas and topics, and you just have the time to do it, sure. But I wouldn't necessarily focus on that because it's kind of the end of the road. And it's the same thing with Carly's recipe site here. So a lot of these recipes, people aren't searching for those specific recipes. They're just searching for the broader idea. And so don't get too hung up on making sure if you're creating a listicle post like this, which I like to do listicle posts because they just tend to get a lot of clicks and people like them. And you can oftentimes add more ideas to them. And so it's just more opportunity to create pins for them. Now, so when it comes to keyword research for this in particular, then let's see. So south of France, so we have that interest. I'm curious to look at the related interests to see, okay, so these particular areas, like nice France, aesthetic, I probably skip the aesthetic stuff. South of France, travel. So these would be keywords I would for sure want to include in the pin for this blog post. So we're creating a blog post for South of France beaches. So in the pin, like descriptions, I'd be putting South of France travel. If you want to talk about an itinerary, if it makes sense to have an itinerary for these beaches, maybe not. Now, in this case, so for this travel blogger, it would be great if they had a whole blog post dedicated to each beach of like the ultimate, guide for St. Tropez Beach. And maybe they do have that. I don't know. Doesn't look like it. And that's a missed opportunity where you can continue to guide the user to additional topics, kind of drill down and explore even more. But yeah, these would be great. I mean, nice France. If you could find a beach that's in nice France, great. You can feature that beach and make sure to put nice French beach in the description to target that related interests.
So I think that in this is one of those things where we're talking about like not everything applies across all niches. And you mentioned travel is such a great niche for us to be doing this demonstration in because it really highlights how well we have to know whether or not the user is looking at what level of granularity. So for the individual beaches, is there a lot of search volume at those beaches? And in the past, we haven't actually been able to see search volume on Pinterest. All of a sudden, really recently, Pinterest has added search volume to those idea pages. So you could actually right now open those idea pages in PinClicks, or eventually PinClicks is going to pull the information in, and you could determine whether or not you should have a blog post per individual idea based on that search volume.
True. Yeah. Okay.
So do you want to just show them in PinClicks what I'm talking about when I say that? Because it's so new to Pinterest that we don't actually, it's not something that we have ever, so Kathy just said, where do you see Pinterest search volume? It's not something that we have ever talked about before because it's new.
Yep, that's right. It's right here, right? So I clicked on the name of this interest, took me to the official idea page for it. And we see 170 people search for this in the last 30 days.
Wait, can you show me that again? I'm sorry.
This is a new concept. So if you feel like it takes you a minute to catch up with this idea, that is.
So you clicked on the title, the South of France, and it takes you to a concept page. Is that what you just called it?
To the idea page.
Idea page.
Yep. Yeah, this is where we're getting all this information from. Is from this idea page. Yes.
I didn't even know
So
you could do that.
yeah. So 170 people search for this. Now, it- I don't know if that's for this niche. I don't know if that's a lot, a little, average. You would know over time as you continue to look at search volume of different topics, you would have an idea of reaching 170 people who are specifically looking for South of France beaches. Great. But remember, this blog post will roll up and target broader people and broader topics, right? So it's gonna target people who are interested in beaches just in France, but it's also going to target people who are interested in a European summer beach trip, and also people who are it's going to target people who are just interested in European summer. So there's several different layers of people that you can reach with this one blog post, as long as you create these boards of these major ideas and you create pins that link to this blog post and put those pins in these boards.
So
So now all of a
170 people,
sudden
I'm
you're
sorry, I'm
now
sorry.
all of a
100,
sudden the 170 people.
yeah,
So say that. Yeah, what about that?
170 people searched for that, and what was the amount of time that in the last 30 days?
That's right.
Okay, I'm sorry, I
Yep.
interrupted.
Yeah. Yeah. So now I'm curious to look at European summer beach, right? If that's an official interest and if we can get search volume for that. Nope. There's no interest. Maybe it could be plural. Let's see. Maybe. Nope. Okay. But European summer. So we got summer destinations. And so that's something to consider, especially if you look at the search volume, is when it comes to creating the name for this board that we're talking about. So European summer, right? Would you call it just a European summer? It's kind of broad, or would you name it? Question is like, would you name it something else, like such as European summer destinations? Well, I would it kind of depend on search volume, right? And understanding the intent. And the intent, it's broader. Let's say European summer, um, that could be more like aesthetic. It could be the name of a movie. I don't know. But once you add in the word destinations, now it becomes more specific. And also looking at the taxonomy here, it's under travel destinations as well. So that's a good sign too. There aren't any
So
related interests.
I'm going to
Mhm.
interject quickly here because
Yep.
the search volume thing is so new to us that like I was not able to use search volume as a concept for creating the boards for the new site. So
Yeah.
what I did to try to determine if it was a good major niche to target was
Hmm.
I looked to see if it had related interests and taxonomy. In some cases, I was able to find ones that had
Yep.
related interests and related searches and taxonomy. Can you show? Okay, there. See,
Yeah.
so you can filter the interests. Interests are annotations that have idea pages. You can filter them so that you can get pin clicks to show you only ones that have taxonomy and related interests. This is a new concept for me since pin clicks became a thing. You could do this without pin clicks. Remember, I said there was like 90% of the research that we do, you can do it without pin clicks. Like if you copy and paste all your pins into a logged out window. This is one of those things that I don't actually know how well you could apply it without pin clicks. This is one of those 10% things. But for a lot of my major ideas, I chose to target ones that had two out of those three things. Can you show them what taxonomy is, Tony, in there quickly? Because that's so here you can see on the page there's a check for taxonomy, but
That's
because
right.
I couldn't use search volume, it didn't exist when I was building this 2 months ago.
Uh-huh.
um I just used for my titles and my boards how much relationship was available to me to build out in Pinterest. So if you open the
Yeah.
page, can you show them the taxonomy on the page, on an
Yeah.
interest page?
Yeah, sure. So I'll just go back to European summer.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh, yeah. So here it is right here, the taxonomy, travel destinations, which will mirror what you see up here. So we don't have, so the volume again, volume for this is kind of low. I mean, maybe it's a high for, and I know that their ad revenue for travel blogs can be really great. So you don't need as much traffic to it. But and also this is the last 30 days and we're in the middle of winter. So or not even middle, we're not even middle. We haven't even really started winter. So I can see why this volume would be low right now because this is like a rolling 30 days. They update this number about every 4 weeks is what we're tracking and understanding. Um, I don't know if that's true for all keywords. This is all brand new, so we're still figuring it out. But we could see this number go higher over time. And you could always validate that to see if it's in trends. So you can go back to, let's see, where is, no, that is the account. Where is Pinterest trends? Here we go. Travel. So keywords. And I don't always necessarily validate keywords like this here in trends. Let's see. I'm going to clear all those filters except this keyword. So it's not, might not be in here. Top yearly trends. That's what I want. Nope. Okay. So it's not in here, which is great because it's good to start broad with what we've done here with European summer and Pinterest trends, but then find like specific narrowed down ideas and pin clicks. That's to your competitive advantage, in my opinion. Just because people aren't searching for have enough people searching for this right now doesn't mean you can't reach a lot of people, especially as like springtime comes, as they start searching for European summer ideas. And so just this is your advantage, in my opinion. Because so many people just rely on Pinterest trends for all their keyword ideas.
Yeah,
Okay.
I agree. I use Pinterest trends as a starting place for um like, okay, going into the next season, what are some ideas of content clusters I could build out?
Yep.
I use Pinterest trends to make to get the ideas, but I didn't rely solely on Pinterest trends to explore those. I went in there and I think I saw that pumpkin recipes was doing really well, but then following the train of thought that says in general the same user is not going to interact with a dessert as they are with a soup, then I went the next level down inside pin clicks.
Got it. Okay. Great. And so now I'm already seeing additional keywords we can create and target Greece in the summer.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a major idea. I would create a whole, you could create a whole set of new posts just targeting Greece, like what we did with Italy, right? You could do Italy outfits. You can go in here and you can do beaches in Italy. And then you could do same thing with same thing with, we did France. We kind of skipped a part of like you can do like a French summer vacation, right? And you could do whole blog posts on beaches. You could do um, outfits, all sorts of stuff. So it's almost endless. And what you can, it's the kind of content you can create, it seems.
Yeah. Okay, so if you go on each of those pages that you were on, European
Yeah.
summer vacation and the other one that you were just on, there was one pin on both of those pages that had astronomically higher saves. Now, saves are historical. They're not necessarily telling you what's going on right now.
Okay.
But the one pin that had astronomically higher saves, I'd be interested in opening that pin to see what the annotations are on that pin so that I could start to develop ideas around why is this pin getting more, saves and traction than all
Hmm.
the other pins on this page. And that is something that I did do when I was building out the food site. I would look at, I'd have all my annotations pages open across the top the way I showed, open in a new page,
Hmm.
open new page. And I would look at them and I would say, well, this page, for whatever reason, has pins that are getting 10 times the saves of this page. So in this case, maybe I should use more annotations from this page and this pin than I am using from the other ones because more people are engaging potentially with that one.
Totally. Yes. Right. So this one has almost 30,000 saves. And so now we look at these annotated interests here on the screen. We've got a Greece vacation senior trip. That's a great one that you could do. Great topic. That's a great subtopic for European summer destination for like a senior trip. Um, Voyage Europe. I don't know, Europe summer. So there's different destinations, but yes, the assumption is so these interests will then be associated with the user who engages with these pins. And if there are any on here that are related to kind of the content that you're creating, these are excellent ideas of topics to go after that you might have a better chance of getting more visibility for those pins because there's at least 29,000 people who saved them that potentially your pins could be exposed to depending on, but it's historical, right? So actually,
Right.
this particular pen, it says it was created in January 7th, 2024. So almost a year ago. And over time, as this pen gets older and older, these particular interests become less relevant to those 29,000 people unless they come back and engage with this topic again.
Yeah.
And for some topics, that dropout could be pretty quick. Especially, I can see with the travel niche, people, it's a short, it kind of be a short-lived thing, right? There might be just a month or two or so or two that they're planning and really interested in this topic, but then they move on and they're not. Maybe they're just doing their one big European summer vacation for their lifetime, and so it's a very limited in time type of topic to target, which means versus like recipes, they're like what Carly likes to say, like people always have to eat, right? And make food. So recipes is a great like evergreen niche where your topics will continue to target a lot of the same people versus travel.
Well, that is a great point and just brings us full circle back around to the conversation that we started this whole thing with
Uh-huh.
3 hours ago, which is about niche on Pinterest and understanding your niche and the way people interact with it. And I, that's something because I'm not in travel.
Yep.
That's not something that I've really ever considered how the old oh boy, that makes me want to ask this question that could just open a whole can of worms. But for people in this niche, maybe we need to ask this question. Are your users, are your followers over time even more dead weight on your account than what
Mhm.
might be applicable um to the average niche like food or whatever?
Yep.
Because I think about years ago before I ever had kids, we traveled a lot. And I remember before we went to Belfast once, I saved hundreds of pins because Belfast is just a really unique photogenic destination. And I just, the same with the wedding niche, Jody, for sure.
Wedding,
And
yep.
actually,
Pregnancy.
also, yeah, postpartum. Absolutely. I believe this is a huge problem with postpartum niche. This whole idea of deleting boards, abandoning old heavy accounts. Man, I wonder if people in the travel niche who are seeing struggle to grow, I wonder if it's worth having a conversation about starting new accounts for them. You know, you can make new pins for your old content and put it up, and that old content will still be rich if you reclaim it on another account. That is beyond the scope of this training, but it's maybe something that we
Yes.
could discuss in the Facebook group because you make a really great point.
Yeah. Yeah, and this is why our podcast episodes are so long because
And
there's
this is
just
why.
so much nuance to all this and why it's so hard for us to give you a cookie cutter step-by-step process from start to finish
Mm-hmm.
that would apply to any niche. It just isn't possible. I am working on it and it's taking a long time for me to come up with some step-by-step processes and using pin clicks for keyword research to find these broader ideas to then narrow for your boards and then narrow down with ideas to cover for specific blog posts. It just depends on your niche and the kind of content you're creating. And so I hope that like showing you an example, it inspires you with some ideas and ways you can approach keyword research, but you might not actually follow this step by step if you're in a different niche. And that's what's tricky. And like maybe one day one of us, someone on the internet will figure out for like every like major niche out there. I'm sure you can kind of group all these niches into similar content types that you could follow a pretty close process of the keyword research for it step by step. I'm working on it, but give me time. It's kind of difficult. Uh, it's making my brain turn to mush too, but I
It
work
is
on it.
it is really difficult. And for years, I have attempted to develop step by step processes, and truly, I've given up trying to develop step by step processes that I can give to people, because the more I do Pinterest, the more I understand that what makes a successful
Hmm.
Pinterest account is
Hmm.
understanding how Pinterest works. And so, through this whole discussion that we've had today, I hope that what people are taking away is that we are creating content focused on the potential for pin relationship, and that we are understanding um where Pinterest is getting that relationship for our pins. Now, the easiest places that we can control that relationship is through the use of annotations and through the use of boards. I would say those are just like straight up the most easy ways that we can have control. There are other things like we mentioned earlier, like if a user searches for a keyword and then engages with multiple pins in the same session, but that's harder for us to control.
Yep.
So hopefully through the sharing of all this information today, even though it's not as step by step as I think most people would like it to be, what we really want to develop is an understanding for the platform that you can take and apply to your own content. And so I know there's going to be a lot of questions. We'll take the time to answer as many as we possibly can live here. Tony told me that he's good to keep hanging out, and I am good to keep hanging out. I knew this was going to be long because I know Pinterest is complex, but also for some people, I know some people have said they have to go because this has been time. Make sure you post your questions in the Facebook group, and I will be in there to answer them. And Tony said he'll be in there to answer them. I am still going to show you how to make pens in PicMonkey, absolutely. But
Yep.
there are probably a few more keyword research things that we could look at. We can take questions about the keyword research stuff we've talked about so far, if there's any, Sarah.
Yeah, okay, so I've got questions for Tony. Um, let's see if I can find them. Does PinClicks show you what boards these pins are saved to? If not, could that be added?
It will be added. Yes, you cannot see that right now, but we'll be showing that eventually. Yeah, we'll have a link when you hover over a pin to
Okay.
view the boards that it's been pinned to that Pinterest will show us. Yep.
Is there a way to use PinClicks to see what your competitors are pinning and doing well with?
Yes and no. So, well, I'll get to that in a second. Um, I want to wrap up real quick. Like I want to put a bow on this blog post idea.
Okay.
Okay, if I can. So we're working on the 10
Yeah.
best beaches in south of France. This is one of those blog posts where if you know who Jesse Cunningham is, my friend on YouTube, he likes to use AI and leverage pin clicks and create all these pins. He does a lot of like recipes, home decor stuff, and listicles he's creating. A lot of those keywords for like every listicle item will come from pin clicks. This is not necessarily the case for this blog post. For this example of the site we're looking at, so the 17 best beaches south of France, they've got all these beaches, right, that they've chosen. Again, you can do a Wikipedia search or Google search and find every single one, and you can travel there, or or you can search for ones that, you know, are maybe they're more popular in general, and you can include those in your listicle. And that's up to you on how you want to approach that. But this would be one of those where getting these individual like H2s, these listicle ideas that's not gonna really surface much in pin clicks for this kind of topic. But I would create a pin for each of these ideas. And the kind of pin I would create for them would be like a picture of the beach, and I'd probably put some text on it and put like, the name of the beach maybe on there. And then I would put the headline on that pin, and I would pin it to the, best beaches in France board. I probably wouldn't pin it to the European summer beach vacation. Maybe if I got the time, but at least pin it to the best beaches in France. So if you have 17, create 17 pins for each one of these. I would then also create an 18th pin, and that would be like at least a collage pin that's just putting all these pictures together in one pin, targeting the 17 best beaches south of France. Now, the keywords you're using for those pin titles, that could be like if you create an individual pin for this beach, you can use I don't know how to pronounce that. You can use that name. Plus, what I have still pulled up here in PinClicks is I did a keyword research for South of France beaches. These are all like excellent variations of keywords you can use in your pin titles and your pin descriptions. There's just subtle ways that people are basically typing the same thing, but in different ways. And I would target all of these, at least in my pin descriptions, if not pin titles. And then same thing with the Interest Explorer tool. Well, this just has the one south of French beaches, but maybe there could be, this would be a source of specific beaches you want to use, right? And then of course put those in the pin titles and everything. But maybe you might get some ideas from some of these pins here that are ranking and looking at, what they're putting in their pin titles. You can also then do the same thing, South of France beaches. You can take that over to the top pins tool. Again, we're just collecting ideas for what to put in pin titles for the, 18 pins that we're going to be creating, and just looking to see what are others doing. What are other annotations that are showing up that might be relevant. Of course, it would take a lot of work to look at these one by one. That's where I like to just export, and I can instantly look at all the annotations for them. And
Tony,
more. Yep.
From the words on the pin, from the pin title and the pin description itself,
Yep.
is there an amount of keywords that you should be targeting for the whole package of Pinterest?
Yeah.
Should you try to aim to get 10 different keywords into all of those places? More? 20? 5?
Yeah. So you want to think about for each of these pins, I would definitely be including not only the keywords I just showed you, basically like the synonyms, the other variations of saying the best beaches in south of France, but also the specific names of specific beaches, but also other keywords like I would put in European summer as one of those keywords, and then also understanding your own niche and the really broad keywords. So like with my sites, I've got a running list that after a lot of keyword research, so my team references of like pretty much every pin must contain these keywords. So for example, if I was in the travel niche, probably the word travel, traveling, destination, vacation, like those would be keywords I would probably include in almost every pin that I create. But it takes time to understand what those really common popular keywords are that are going to help make the algorithm understand what these pins are related to.
Okay.
Cool. So did we put a bow on that one? I mean, I'm not going to walk through the process of creating like all these pins and everything, but that's where Carly has done a little bit of that process. Hopefully that gives you an idea of how I'd approach it.
Sorry, go ahead, Sarah.
No, something just popped up, and this question has popped up a lot about Carly on your new site. Are you running promoted pins? Are you doing ads?
No. So I have not paid for any pins on this site. And actually, because this feels kind of related, I am going to answer it now. I've seen in the chat, somebody asked also, did I redirect any of the traffic from Mommy on Purpose over to this site to build up traffic to it? And I'm sure that's a great question to ask because I've talked about doing this before. I had a site that I needed to qualify for AdThrive a few years ago, and I talked like publicly about the idea of borrowing traffic from other sites, redirecting it to this site to, get to a certain threshold. No, I did not do that with this site at all. This is completely organic Pinterest growth, naturally, the way that it would be on any account. The one way that I did potentially piggyback on like the Mommy on Purpose account is, like I mentioned, having those couple of group boards that I invited the small account to pin to. And so that is like one way that having another account has benefited this account. But group boards are available. I mean, not my group boards, but group boards are available for anybody to use. And so they're still a valid part of the experiment because you could go out and find group boards. It's a chore to go find group boards, but you can do it, or approach people to make collaborative boards. But yeah, I didn't run any ads and I didn't redirect any traffic, even though I've talked about doing it for other sites in the past. Are there other questions that we should be answering?
I do have one more question in my notes for Tony.
Okay.
He emailed about the new takeaways from Carly's method and that he's weaving them into his Pinterest strategy. Is that something that you were going to talk about here? Or is that something that you're planning on going further in your own email?
Yeah, so what I just showed with these major ideas and these minor ideas and how it's setting up boards and cross promoting these pins, right? Like the 10 best beaches in south of France, I would create a pin for that and put that into the board on, European summer beaches, right? Like in the past, I wouldn't have done that. I would have just created like one board on the south of France beaches and just put all of my pins in that one board. That's it. But now I'm kind of cross-pollinating more. And that's because of conversations I've had with Carly on that one. So that's a big thing that I'm changing. And then content clusters, like exactly like how I laid it out, we could do a whole content cluster on European summer destination ideas and then creating all of these listicles and individual blog posts on beaches, on outfits, on itineraries and packing lists and all that kind of stuff. And just focusing on a cluster that could reach a lot of people, a lot more people than just focusing on random destinations all over the world, keeping it focused. Now, if you just have like a France travel blog, then the clustering is going to look a little differently than what I just showed. And so you're just going to continue to cluster down, right? So maybe take the different regions of France, create a cluster around that. You can do it by, I don't know a whole lot about France, but you can do it by regions. You can also do it by cities. So that's where it just takes the keyword research and trying to understand, have it make sense in your brain on how you can group all these different topics together and then come out with those topics in a shorter amount of time, basically. So that's another strategy that I'm implementing, or starting that strategy right now. It's like just creating all these set of topics that do really well. So in one of my newsletters, when I was promoting this training here, I talked about my gorilla friend, and he did the same thing, but for Google SEO, he was just creating like going back to recipes, he would focus just on chicken recipes, like have a bunch of different chicken recipe ideas, because when you're doing keyword research and like Google SEO tools, you're just going to type in chicken or chicken recipes and it's going to give you a bunch of different recipe ideas. Well, it's just easier to just go ahead and knock all those out all at once and do that keyword research once and then move on to something else like beef recipes or something. And so he would just focus on the chicken recipes and create a bunch of blog posts and pins around those and put them up and then move on to another topic. And I think it's one of the reasons that's what Carly did, and that's what he's doing, and it's working well for both of them.
I want to add, just because I know that, like, we've said so many things, and because it's not laid out step by step, one of the benefits in my mind to Pinterest over Google, as far as these content clusters go, is you might make all these chicken recipes, and then that's kind of it as far as your cluster goes on Google. Whereas you described it to me the other day as category level targeting. So you've targeted the level in Google with your category of chicken recipes. Okay, so in Pinterest, the major ideas can be so many more. You've got your chicken recipes, but then that same collection of recipes, and I've said this a few times, but I hope if I say it different ways, it will click for different people. That same collection of recipes can also be easy weeknight dinners with chicken and you know, the best chicken casseroles to serve on Christmas Eve. I mean, that's maybe like overly granular, but turkey recipes. If you had a turkey recipe collection, you could do things to make with leftover turkey. And that can be a really great seasonally angled post. And so you've got your cluster. Yes, it's an SEO approach, but on Pinterest, you can take it so much further. And I think that's the difference maybe between clustering for Google and clustering for Pinterest is on Pinterest, you're never done with your category that you've made. If you want to expand it into the idea of category, I don't like using the word category because it feels too specific, one cluster, one category, but I hope that made sense. Do I need to have a roundup for each cluster? So need is about niche. Need is about niche. We can't answer that question specifically for every niche. I think that when you can have a roundup for each cluster, it's better. And I think that if you can have 10 roundups for each cluster, it's better, which is kind of what I'm trying to communicate right now. Like, if we were approaching this just from a Google perspective, we would just call it our chicken recipes roundup. But because it's for Pinterest, those chicken recipes can go into chicken recipes. They can also go into your easy weeknight chicken dinners. They can also go into things to make with leftover chicken. And so you can have as many roundups as possible for your cluster. And I hope that makes sense. Sarah, was there questions about the things that Tony
I think
just said,
that
or
we've
if I just
gotten the one more question that I had here, and I'm not sure if we already covered this with Tony, was how do we know how competitive something is if there's a lot of pins for that specific keyword? And should it be something like you do with hashtags on Instagram where you grab a few of those super high volume keywords along with a little few of the lower volume, like the lower hanging fruit type keywords, and mix those in together?
Yeah. So with Pinterest, we've got two different places we're optimizing for. We have search and we have the home feed. So when it comes to volume, I mean, that's something to pay attention to for search, but it also gives you a clue on how many people you can reach in the home feed. So sometimes these smaller volume keyword ideas may actually reach more people than you realize. And maybe it might say like 139 people search for this in the last 30 days, but that might be a really specific idea. But those 139 people, they might be attached to a bigger idea, and maybe there's a lot more. So it's like a sub idea of a bigger idea. And if you can reach the sub idea people, then you can kind of roll your way up to reaching the bigger, more popular topics. If that makes sense. So like, European uh, summer European vacation, that could even roll up even further to like summer vacation ideas, or vacation ideas like that. If you just think how it can continue to have another level up, you can reach a lot of people with even a small specific idea. And that's what's so different with Pinterest versus Google, is that it really truly was like go after keywords. I mean, some people went after keywords that had like zero search and somehow they brought in traffic. I never understood it. I always targeted keywords with search volume, because that was the only way to reach them, because they're just performing that search. Versus with Pinterest, you've got the home feed that can show that in, but also Pinterest likes to be the curator of the ideas. So you just type in summer vacation ideas, like they're going to show you pins from like all over the world. Like it could be European, could be in Australia, could be in the States and Canada. Like it's just going to be a mix. And so it gives you a great opportunity to have these really specific blog posts that like we just did with the beaches south of France to show up for some really big searches, like summer vacation ideas. So
Yes.
I wouldn't like limit my what I'm creating content for just because it has a small search volume, but just that it has at least 100 people in the last 30 days. So searching in the month of November for summer vacation ideas, and there's already 139 people. Well, I think that number is going to grow as we get closer to next summer. I would target it. Now, also, you have to look at another thing that's different about Pinterest is, okay, you look at, say, the top pins tool, or you just perform the search on Pinterest logged out, and you see, well, there's like 100 other Pinterest accounts that have basically graded the 10 best beaches in the south of France. Is it worth me creating a blog post on that topic if there's already a bunch that exists? I I like to continue to create content for existing topics. Pinterest likes fresh ideas, even on existing ideas that and like the fresh pens. So I wouldn't necessarily not target it just because there's 100 other blog posts about it. If you can find that unique angle with that blog post, so uh, 10 best beaches in south of France, you could do one specific for if you have kids, right? Or for families. Maybe no one's done it on that. And so just finding that unique angle can go a long ways too.
Okay,
And
those are
it's
all of my
important.
questions for you, Tony.
Okay.
I just want to follow up the thing Tony said with when it comes to Pinterest. And this, I want to go all the way back to the fall bake sale ideas that we talked about. Engagement breeds engagement. And so sometimes those keywords that aren't getting the engagement right now. For example, the fall bake sale treats, which if you remember how I got there, I opened all the annotations and I looked at it and I was seeing fall bake sale treats all over. Guaranteed, if I looked at the interest pages for any one of those, the search volume would have been really low on it. Now, there was a lot of them and they're all similar ideas. So add it all together, whatever. But the search volume would have been really low compared to the search volume for things like pumpkin dessert recipes or desserts to make with pumpkin. There's also a lot less competition. And so, because I was able to break into some users' feeds with the pumpkin dessert recipes, the fall bake sale treats, those pins get engagement. Those pins are related to the pins that are pumpkin dessert recipes or desserts to make with pumpkin. Those are more competitive, but you're already getting the engagement on that pin. It's being engaged with for a lesser, a word with lesser volume, but the engagement still ticks on to those words that are more competitive. So once you start getting engagement, engagement breeds engagement, and all of a sudden your pins become options where they might not have been before. So I think sometimes those lower search volume words can literally drag your pins out for the higher search volume words when there's enough opportunity for you to surface in the feeds for those lower search volume words. I am seeing a ton of questions go by about old accounts versus new accounts and the ideas around this specific content planning strategy that we've been talking about.
That was exactly my next question. That's exactly my next question on my list. How can we make this work, your strategy for your new account? How can we make this work for old accounts?
Okay, let's talk about that. I have 3 separate things to say about this. So the first one is that I strongly believe that this strategy, the idea of content clusters, is replicable for old accounts. I think that especially old accounts, you've got 400, 500 blog posts. You can look at what you've already got published. You can start to identify content clusters inside of what you already have published. You can look at the pins that are already strong for your account and start to identify new major ideas that you maybe haven't targeted well before. Or if you have a minor idea that is really strong for your account, like a cream cheese pumpkin cookie, there's a good chance that cream cheese pumpkin cookie is going to be annotated already with pumpkin dessert recipes. It's not the same as cookies. It's a major idea that's a branch off of the minor idea. And then you can decide, this has already done really well for my account. There's a good chance that people who've engaged with this minor idea would also engage with my more broad idea. Can I start a whole new board for that broad idea and build out the content cluster based on what I already see doing well on my account? So old accounts already have insights that new accounts don't have. I
Hey,
don't,
Carly, you
yeah.
want to, this is a good time to talk about basically like the Google Search Console for Pinterest that I'm building.
Yes.
You remember that? And you found a keyword that you weren't really targeting that you're ranking for, remember? And it inspired some new ideas.
It'd be great if you did that. Do you want to
Okay.
show them? Because you've got the mock-up thing for it, right?
Yeah, it's live.
So,
So
okay. Oh, it's live because this is so important for old accounts that are already doing well on Pinterest to understand this concept. And this is something, again, I said there was 90% that we could do without pin clicks. This is the 10% we can't do without pin clicks. But it's pretty cool. So you go ahead and show it to us.
okay, let me show you. All right, so this is a new tool that we're building in PinClicks. If you're in my community, then you've had access to it for the last couple weeks. But basically, it's an account explorer tool. And if you want to access this tool, you can't right now from the main navigation. But if you just type in app.pinclicks.com/word accounts, you can access it. So check it out. It's still kind of in beta and there's more to add to it. But right now we are, as you might know, we're collecting millions and millions of keywords from Pinterest and we're checking the rankings for all those keywords. It's a long process, so we're working on it. And so as we discover keywords that are as we're searching Pinterest search logged out and we're bringing in those results into our database, we know which accounts and domain names those keywords are attached to. And so now we've got this tool in here where you can basically put in any Pinterest username account and you can see all the keywords that they rank for that we currently have in our database. So as the database grows of keywords where we've searched Pinterest for that keyword, we'll be able to show you this. So these aren't keywords that Carly manually added via the rank tracker, although she does have keywords that she's manually added.
Some of them are, but not all
Some
of
of them
them.
are, but
Yeah.
that's right.
Like
So
fall
this
bake
is
sale treats. I put that in.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. So this is a great place to put in your own account username in here, and you can see some of the keywords you're ranking for. And when Carly was looking at this the other day, she found a keyword that she was surprised to see. Do you remember what it was? Is it, and are you still ranking
Yeah.
for it?
It was a summer one. It was like summer charcuterie boards, and I've done really well with Thanksgiving
Okay.
charcuterie boards.
Mm-hmm.
When we wrap this up, we will look at the pins that have done well on my account just for like curiosity's sake, because I think people will love to see that. There it is. So I don't have any content around summer charcuterie boards. I've been so hyper focused on fall and Christmas. I have a ton
Yep.
of stuff for fall and Christmas. I haven't even started pinning for summer. I have
Yeah.
no content for summer right now. And yet this account is already breaking into the feed somehow. Now this pin was like amazing. This pin did amazing for my account. Pinterest already thinks this pin is relevant for summer. I would not be surprised if I try to pin more summer things and they do phenomenally. So this is a place where old accounts can probably really gain insight and ideas about their new content clusters that they can create. Now I can maybe even reuse, I don't know. I probably can't reuse some of my charcuterie board ideas. They're pretty seasonal. I bought really seasonal ones, but the more general
Okay.
ones,
Mm-hmm.
I could have reused them in a for summer post.
Yep. It's a good idea. I don't know why this pen is ranking.
It's a super
Because,
strong pin and engagement breeds engagement. And somebody has probably saved it out there, or 10 people have probably saved it out there to their broad charcuterie board idea.
okay.
They saved it to their broad charcuterie boards. And from the other pins on those boards, it starts to gain context. So if they had just saved in the last 6 months a ton of charcuterie board pins that were the summer, and now they've
Okay.
added my pin to that board. This isn't a good strategy as creators. We don't want to go saving a bunch of charcuterie summer boards to my Thanksgiving charcuterie board, but it's an opportunity for me to target things I haven't targeted yet. There's a ton of Santa Nutter Butter cookies. I don't have those. I have Santa cookies. I have turkey Nutter Butter cookies, but I don't have Santa Nutter Butter cookies.
Oh, maybe you should create some.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's pretty late in this year for me to buy any more Christmas content, considering I've already got like another 20 Christmas
Yeah.
posts that I'm not going to get out. But for next year,
There you go.
for next
Yep.
year. So for old established accounts, whether or not you have pin clicks, looking at the things that are annotated for your account for things that are already strong, that's going to do really well. And then start to build out your content clusters around these keywords and create new boards. I think that is one of the biggest deals for old accounts, is that a lot of us have been relying on old boards for years and years. So new boards around your new content clusters and new keywords using your old content. And I think that there's a lot of potential for old accounts that way. That said, when it comes to my main site, my big old site that I have, creating this new site has been so much fun, and it has been so easy that I found myself thinking, for the first time ever, maybe it's time to sell that site. Why do I want to drag it along and go through the effort of, I mean, if it was content that I was really invested in, or if it was something that I had built a community around, then for certain I would go ahead and build up the traffic to it. That site has been a testing ground for not just Pinterest, but also for monetization methods and different content creation methods for years. That site specifically, I'm starting to feel like, why don't I sell that site and make 3 new ones using this method, and it's all clean and easy. And so I'm not sure that I am going to use it for my old site, even though I firmly believe that this is applicable to old sites. And the last consideration, and somebody asked this question earlier, and we kind of touched on it earlier, is dead weight on your account. So even though I think that we should move forward, do exactly exactly what we talked about, find those keywords that are already strong on your account, create more content clusters with the content you already have. I do think that considering dead weight is a big thing. Right back to the beginning of the conversation, we talked about deleting old boards that maybe hadn't had engagement in over a year. I would consider doing that. If your account is, if it is got, I don't know, there's no good guideline for this, but if it has 20,000 pins and less than 100,000 impressions, or if it has 7,000 pins and, only 5,000 impressions, there's a real problem there. If your pins are getting less than 1 impression per pin, that's a problem. If your stats are like that, I would consider starting a new account, because there's probably a dead weight problem on that account if you're getting less than an impression per pin. Can I back it up? Where did the idea come from for Bite Size Bash? It's a completely different niche. Oh, okay. We did talk about this at the very beginning, Kathy. Bite Size Bash, I wanted a top Pinterest niche. I wanted one that I could easily create content in. I had already had experience in the niche on Mommy on Purpose, and I'd already seen the potential on it. So there were lots of reasons that I chose this niche. Those were the big ones. I was excited about it, for one thing. I've always really believed in publishing things that you are excited about, because it makes you want to do it. I tried to start a personal finance site a few years ago. Was not excited about it. I only ever got 30 posts on it. It never did anything, because 30 posts does not a site make. So I was really excited about it. Did I say all 3 things about old established accounts? Yes, I did. No, there was a third thing. this is how it's applicable. I don't want to do it on mine. Oh yeah, and the dead weight. Those are the three things that I wanted to say about old established accounts. Sarah, were there questions about that?
On old established accounts, let me look.
Yeah.
Let me see here what we've
Yeah,
got.
there's a question about boards. I'm like, archiving a board versus just deleting it. I'm personally just deleting boards. If I have no plans to ever reactivate it, then I'm just deleting it. But again, I'm being very picky about which boards I'm deleting because but these boards are kind of dead weight. They're not bringing in any clicks, hardly any impressions at this point. So I feel confident in deleting those boards, and I may end up creating new boards on those same topics, probably with a
Mhm.
slightly better optimized keyword name for the board. But yeah, I'll just create a new one. I might have a better chance of just starting over,
Yeah.
go from there.
Yeah, I agree.
So
Because the keyword might still be a good keyword. It might have been something amiss with the content or approach that you've taken before.
one of the questions about old accounts is, what if you cannot publish newer URLs every day? If you only can publish 2 posts a week, how can you maximize those old URLs with new pins? And would this strategy work?
Okay, so once you have your account established to a certain point, I don't believe that you have to that you have to keep publishing at the same rate. Increased rate of publishing will probably increase growth, but it's not necessary for like my main account. We literally publish 2-3 times a month, and traffic hasn't decreased on that account in a long time. It doesn't grow exponentially the way that it has on this account because I'm not targeting new keywords all the time. So targeting more new keywords all the time is going to help with growth. I definitely don't think that established accounts need to keep publishing at the rate that this new account has done. You can certainly you can certainly sorry, I totally lost my train of thought. we will show you Google Analytics and Mediavine and all those things. I had
Tony,
said
read
that
the chat. Tony, read the chat.
I had said that I would share my journey screen. I have since found out that is against the terms of service of Journey. Yeah. So I can't do that. But Tony has made a cool spreadsheet of the revenue and like how it's related to boards and posts and stuff. And he's going to share that.
Before we do that,
that'll be like
Carly,
that.
can you just do your PicMonkey demonstration?
Yes. Let's do that.
People are asking.
Okay, let's go into PicMonkey and do that. And you guys, thank you to all literally 150 people who have hung out with us all day. I love talking about Pinterest. I know that it is an overwhelming conversation. And I am so grateful for the opportunity to share these things with you. And I really hope that that any of the things that we have been able to share have been beneficial. And definitely the Facebook group will be open for like at least another 2 weeks. Tony and I have talked about that, and he is happy to answer questions in the Facebook group, and I am happy to answer questions in the Facebook group. So it will be open, and you can continue asking questions in there. Okay, so PicMonkey is, in my opinion, preferable to Canva because the folders don't nest weirdly inside of each other. I can literally never find anything in Canva again. So what we did is we started a main folder for this site, and then so we have 263 posts published. There you go. My VA makes a folder inside the subfolder for every post. And then as she uploads the posts, she puts the images in here. Then I can come in here, or she can, or my best friend is also helping me with pins, making pins now out of my templates. And so then we can come in here and we can access all the images that are going to be made into the pins. And lots of them I don't use for the pins, but they're part of this recipe, so they are in here. And they're easy to find. And there's 263, so there's so many, but I can like control F and search. If I know I'm looking for mermaid popcorn, I can search for it and find it quickly, which you can't do in Canva. So for me, this is a major benefit. But the actual editor is, in my opinion, superior to Canva. If you have ever used Photoshop, and I came from Photoshop, so if you've ever used Photoshop or like any of those kind of more professional platforms before, you'll prefer PicMonkey simply because the like the layers palette is more like those things than it is in Canva. So we'll make some pins. So what I do is after I make my templates, or if you can get templates, I can get you templates. I have them in one specific folder. There, the pin templates. I just duplicate the ones that I'm going to use for, the next recipe that I'm going to work on. So I'll duplicate as many as I want. And then I'll move those ones into the folder for whatever I'm going to make pins for. So I don't think there's no Oreo crabs made yet. Okay, but that I would have picked a different one. I'll duplicate this one too, since the Oreo crabs are like literally like the Oreo penguins. Whoa, what just happened? Okay, then I'll move these into the folder that I'm going to work in. Oops. Element OP, Oreo crabs. And then I just edit the pin. So since these are copies and they're in, it's just going crazy and making so many copies. I just edit the actual image. I don't need to duplicate it again because it's already in the file I'm working on. Oh, good. They've updated the thing now that I'm like, now that I'm trying to show it to you, they've changed things. That's great. I'm going to love these changes. They're wrong. I actually never love it when anything changes. So then you can add the full photos from here. And I would generally spend a little bit of time choosing which images I'm going to use. But this guy's photography is also great. It's really easy to use any of his photos. So this over here, this is the layers palette that I'm talking about. That is so much more user-friendly than Canva. So, oops. All of the letters are worn off my keyboard and I desperately need a new keyboard. So sometimes I just type things wrong. Okay. So that would be pin number 1. And then I changed the title because I want Pinterest has actually never specifically told us anywhere, I don't think, that they use the file name for SEO, but to me it seems literally insane that they wouldn't. So I always change my file name, and have for the last 8 years. Is there anything specific that anybody wants to see in PicMonkey, or do you want me to show you how to change these things? It's a lot like Canva, so you can change the text colors or the text, but I spend a lot of time like you could waste a lot of time picking around with colors and things. So I don't do that. I do let the templates stay pretty similar, but you can see if you look at my blog posts. One really, really fantastic hack that I have to share with you for making the roundup posts is that because you've seen how long it takes me to scroll through this list of folders that I have here, what I do when I make the roundup style templates, which are really important templates, is I make a grid like this, so that I've added my images. I've like done that really slow process where I go in and oh boy, I've gone in and I've added every image to it. It's a really slow process. Now I will change this grid up just by changing the placement of the images, because it does make it a different image to Pinterest. We don't want to be repetitive, but like I said, we can get away with repeating a few times. So I change a few things. And then when you edit your roundup pin, instead of having to add every individual, wow, that's going to get old. Instead of having to add in every individual image here, then you can just drop your grid in and it'll be the most recently edited image in your hub. And so this makes this a new pin really quickly. You can absolutely just change the color of your text for 1 or 2 copies of this pin. I wouldn't do it for all of them. Or I mean, I wouldn't do it like, on repeat forever, but certainly if you have, like we looked at for the blog post with the Oreos, like 8 boards that it can go on, it is totally okay to do a similar pin version on 2 of those. Or if you're using group boards heavily, or at all, sometimes I'll make a very similar version that I'll post on one of my boards, and then I'll do just the tweaked version with like, slightly different, this is really crooked, slightly
Carly,
different.
how do you pick your fonts?
I like them.
Me too.
Okay. So I
can
pick
you
them because I like them.
Can you store all of the images in PicMonkey permanently?
If you can't, I haven't run into that problem yet. And I've had this PicMonkey account for 6 years. And it's still got images stored in it from 6 years ago. So my plan, now that we're using so many images and storing so much in PicMonkey, my plan, if this account gets full and they tell me that I can't store anymore, is to buy another account under another email address, because this is such a easy management system for our images. And as this does well, in a year, say this pin does really well in a year, and I want to make new images for it, I want these images easily accessible for me to come back in and edit like this. So I don't want to ever start deleting things out of there. I will just buy another account should I run into some sort of restriction where I'm not allowed to keep adding to it. But
so what are a couple of tips that you can use to make different variations for something like this? Besides, you mentioned moving the images around to put them in different positions. What are a couple other ways you can vary this pin?
Yeah. Okay. So
it's not time for her to go to bed yet. It's just not time.
Do you have the meeting power?
I don't know how to.
Who's this friend?
Oh no.
Who's that little friend? You know that friend?
I don't have the power to mute people anymore now that you're the host.
I found it. Yeah, I got it.
Great. Okay. So to make this image a different image, you can swap around the images in the little squares like we talked about. You can change the color of the text. You can change the font. And that makes it a different image. You can change, I've got this little like embellishment on here, this little Christmas gift embellishment. You can change that. make it a different one. When you're putting your text on your pins, I think that it's really, really important to consider your contrast between your text and your images. So in PicMonkey, and this to me also is just so much superior than Canva. The outlines that you can put around, you see how it is so much more readable with the outline than it is without? So you can add the outline in Canva, but it looks really clunky and it's got really sharp edges, and I just don't like it the way that I like this one. And if your images are really busy, you can really dial this up and it changes it a lot, makes it far more easily readable. In my opinion, this feature alone, I would use PicMonkey for. The drop shadow is way superior in PicMonkey than it is to Canva. I wouldn't use it on this one with that white background. I don't like that, but you could do it. You can also fill your images, which you can do in Canva too, but to me in PicMonkey, it just looks way better. And I did it for a couple of images on this site and they performed well.
How often do you change out your templates?
Well, if you look at this account, you can see that I have used basically the same templates, and they evolve over time. For every new post that I make, they evolve a little bit. But really, like if you go back to the start, you would see that we have used the same templates for the last 3.5 months. Sometimes I will run into a set of images that just look terrible, especially at the beginning when I only have a small amount of templates created. I'll just run into like a situation where the images just look bad with everything. And then that'll prompt the creation of a new one. But for the most part, like you can see, we are using the same templates across topics.
You don't put your URL on the pins. How come?
No, I never have. I think it is a waste of time. I just can't come up with a single reason to do it. So I've never done it. And I've said that since the beginning, and nobody in my communities has ever liked that or accepted that. And that's okay. I know that I don't need to do it, but it is fine. If other people want to do it, it's just fine. Yeah, I don't know. There's just no reason to do it. Let's see. What else is important to say about them? Is there any questions about creating pins in? So you can see here, I've got like a few that are different sizes, and I've pinned the grids without any text on them. And some of them are doing well. Like this is a Christmas one, and so it's just starting to pick up. But people are saving this without any text on it. The images, I think, are very compelling. And that'll be niche specific, like, do people want to save this for what they can see in the image or not? And you'll have to determine that for your own niche. Will people still click through if you just save it without a title? On this one, I think they're going to.
I'm actually going to start experimenting in January with just images with no text on them to see how they do.
In the finance niche, that's interesting.
Yeah.
I will be excited to hear about how that goes.
Yeah.
Because in the food niche, makes a lot of sense. In the crafts niche, it makes a lot of sense. In the fashion niche, it makes a lot of sense. I'll be interested to see how you implement it in finance. It's definitely worth trying.
Because I've noticed that people are pinning my images just from my website, just to boards. So I'm like,
interesting.
Yeah. Let's see. Other questions. Grids. Oh, does PicMonkey have the image grid to drop images in quickly like Canva does?
Probably, but if they do, I've never used it. I make my own.
Do you use the long pins more than the short ones?
Yes. I believe that long pins far outperform short pins in 90% of niches. And I think, see here, I just want to point this out. You can see my after Thanksgiving traffic drop and the recovery has started. And I want to go back to after Halloween. And there's a really similar drop. It didn't seem as painful because there wasn't as much traffic, but it's there. And the recovery took about 2 weeks. I think this isn't going to take 2 weeks. The upward slope of the line is steeper this time. I think we're going to get there faster. But I've published more Christmas content than I had at that point. So that is interesting to see. But if you look at what is doing well, this is a glitch pin. So I'm not going to open this one. A glitch pin is a pin that doesn't actually have the stats that Pinterest says it has. All accounts have one usually at some point. They just like, yeah, it's really common. All my accounts have a glitch pin. So I'm not going to open that one, but I'll open all the other ones. And you've seen by looking at my account that we have published plenty of short pins. Oh, I should have opened the ones that were doing well in like the last week because these are all Thanksgiving. But anyway, long pin, long pin, long pin, long pin, long pin, short pin, short pin, short pin. But oh, that's interesting. A few short pins there. Those ones won't have gotten the outbound clicks though, because those are plain ones. So if we look at top pins by outbound clicks, let's see what they say. Okay. Look at this evergreen pin that did so well for Thanksgiving. I was so pleased to see that because ideally over time, I will build out the evergreen content. Glitch pin.
Somebody wants to know how you know which pin is a glitch pin.
You should be in your Pinterest account often enough and opening all your pins like this often enough that you will know when you see it. I believe that looking at your stats will give you the information that you need to make good choices about the future. And so I am in my account all the time opening my pins. And so often I'll do this. I'll open all my top pins like this. Then I'll go to see more stats and I'll adjust them by the same date range, whatever I want that to be. And then I'll compare them all next to each other.
For me, my glitch pin, Pinterest is telling me I'm getting a certain amount of views, click-throughs to my website, and when I go into my analytics, it's not even there.
Yeah. It's crazy. And they're not historical stats because you can get them on brand new pins that have never had a dozen saves, and they'll say 20,000 saves, but like they're not historical stats. I don't know where it's coming from, but it's really common. So I like to open my pins like this and look at them, but I actually opened this to demonstrate long pin click-throughs versus short pin. So long pin, long pin, long pin, long.
And
long,
what size are your long pins compared to your short pins? What size?
750 by 1500 versus 1000 by 1500. Okay. So I like to look at these pins and I like to look at what they're doing over the last 30 days. And it's really interesting. Like, this wasn't really a Thanksgiving pin, but it certainly had Thanksgiving connotations somehow in Pinterest's mind, probably because it's on all those Thanksgiving boards and on all those fall boards. So this one is evergreen and it's not having the same exact drop off, a little bit of a drop off. This one is evergreen and it's finally growing. Yay. And you can see like fall theme things, they were doing well and they are just on their way down. And if we change this to if we change this to the last 7 days, we will really start to see the Christmas pins pick up in here. So this one and this one and this one, these are the Christmas pretzels was one of the earliest Christmas posts that I published. I think this one is not doing well. It needs more time. But it's interesting to me to see that the pretzels are doing so well this week, and they are a solid week older than the other Christmas pins. So Pretzel Roundup was published on November 28th. It's actually published that one on Thanksgiving Day. No, that's not the 28th wasn't Thanksgiving, was it? Oh, sorry, that I published it on October 28th. October 28th. I'm going to close these now because when you look at the Christmas ones, you can really see their pickup this week, which is really, really exciting because these pins they're what is going to, oh, not this one, the other ones. These are what is going to, fill in the gap in the stats that we're seeing now after Thanksgiving. Within a week or two, these ones should have taken the place of the really strong performing Thanksgiving ones.
So when you talked about your pins that you're doing without text on them, you talked about size of pins. How about the square pins? Somebody said they saw on your account a square pin. Was that what was that? Where was that from? Is that something that you did? Are you experimenting with that?
So everything on my account is something that I've done because I'm the only one that has done any pinning on this account so far. Because I wanted to be able to say with authority whether or not it was something that was, intentional or not. So the square pins are the feature images that we are creating for the blog posts. And because they existed, I decided to pin them as a fun experiment. And right now they have not done anything. I know that there are niches that square pins do well in. I have seen people do well with square pins. This does not appear to be one of them where they're going to be super strong. That said, on my square pins, it's important to realize that because they're feature images, they all follow like a single format, the same format. So I haven't pinned very many of them. But like they've got that script font on it and it's smaller. They're not as easy to read as the big ones. And so that's an important consideration. Like, could they do better if they were just plain images? Potentially. But the long ones do so well. And I've had to decide where it's worth investing time. I haven't pinned one recently.
Duplicate question that we've had a couple of times I've seen now. Can you create a whole new Pinterest account but still have it associated with the same blog? Do you have to associate it with a new email? And what about claiming it through Pinterest?
Okay, you do need to have a new email. There's a square one. See, this is what I mean. Like, it's just not quite as easy to read as the other ones.
Yeah.
You do need to have a new email address. You cannot claim your URL on more than one account, but that doesn't mean you can't have a third-party account that heavily pins for this site. Technically, having more than one account and using it to bolster other accounts is like that's against Pinterest terms of service. But if you did it very organically, like you were also saving lots of other third-party pins that are related to the stuff that you want to have saved, then like the purpose of Pinterest is saving pins. They're not going to know if you have another account that's saving a whole bunch of third-party pins and it's also saving some of your pins. That's going to be just fine and probably a really great thing to do. I would do it from a different device so you didn't always have to be logging in and logging out. I would consider a VPN.
Well, I have my personal Pinterest account on my phone and I still use it as I always had. And it just so happens I come across many of my business pins on that. So
yeah, I have a different account on my phone also. And I really wanted to know with this account, I wanted to know how long it would take if I didn't intentionally go and find the pins and save them. I wanted to know how long it would take for my pins that were being pinned using the same keywords that account was saving. How long would it take for them to show up in the feed? And the answer is about 2 weeks. Or at least that's how long it took for this account to show up in that account's feed.
Somebody asked, let's see, do you have any recommendations or best practices to drive the outbound clicks from your pins? They're looking for a magic trick.
Yeah, put your text overlay on your pins and consider the user intent of your image. So
and what about evoking emotion, like a curiosity? I mean, if there's something, I don't know how it works with the food site, but if something is evoking curiosity and they're like, they click on it to read the title and they're interested and they're curious as to what you're talking about, they're gonna click through.
Yeah, I think that emotion and curiosity will apply differently in different niches. So this is another place where you really need to understand your user and what they want. Definitely, we see better click through on pins that give more information, like this one, like just for ingredients. You'll see we use that a lot, just for ingredients, because there's a little bit more information there. You know, this person who is going to save easy and delicious spinach dip might be more apt to save it if they know it's only 5 ingredients than if they're wondering if they're going to have to go to the store for the 20 things they don't have. And so I do think that can help with a click through. There's a lot of pins that we have that don't have those, and honestly, part of the reason that they don't have those is because this site is real like cutesy heavy. Like, people who are saving this kind of content are saving it because it's so cute. They want to make it regardless of how many ingredients there are in it. I would say that spinach dip as an idea is probably far more competitive, and you need to compel the reader more than snowman cake pops, because the reader wants to make snowman cake pops because these are so cute, whereas they want to make spinach dip because they want the recipe. They like spinach dip. Does that make sense? It's really a difficult thing to articulate, but it really does come down to knowing the user intent on Pinterest, which is something that you will learn the more you do Pinterest and the more you open your top performing pins and look at them and compare them to each other. You will learn these things. I don't know. Sometimes I feel like I'm saying like you need to learn the things you need to learn, but that's not it.
For your new site, are you posting in-post images from the blog post to Pinterest, or just creating pins? And do you create new pins for each separate idea for the same blog post? Did you catch that?
Yeah.
Okay.
So there's an image for every H2. Is that what's being asked?
She wants to know if you're posting in-post images from the blog post to Pinterest.
Okay. Mostly only for the major ideas. So for example, if we go to the Christmas cookies recipe, tell me if this isn't answering the question, but if you go to the Christmas cookies board, that is a new board that I'm just working on. We'll use Oreos since it's here. Like here, you can see like this is an image of the Christmas lights Oreos, and this is an image of the Santa Oreos, and this is an image of the reindeer Oreos, and this is an image of the penguin Oreos, and all of those images do go back to the roundup post. So if you go to this post from here, this goes to the roundup post. So the in post images here, they are being posted to the major ideas board. Like, I'm not gonna pin the in post image of Santa Oreos for the Oreo roundup to Christmas cookies, because I'm trying to build up the relationship for the Oreos board on the Oreos major idea board. Did that answer the question?
Yeah, are you paying them directly from your site, or are you uploading those to Pinterest or?
No, I'm uploading them. It wouldn't matter how you did it, but
Okay.
I'm uploading because that's my process. You know, when I open them, I do the create the pin and I fill in all 10. I like to have control. Uploading it to Pinterest gives me control. If you're looking for a way to simplify the process and speed it up because you have, 50 major idea posts that all have 25 images in it, then pinning it from Pinterest is just fine, assuming that you've got good metadata.
Do you include a call to action on your pin or in the description?
No, not usually, because in this niche, the fact that they're looking for it means that they're looking for They already know what action they want to take here. So no, I'm not doing call to action for this site.
Do you pin other people's content to your Pinterest account as part of your strategy?
Yeah, so when we start new boards, I pin about 10 third-party pins to that new board, and those pins are selected based on Pinterest's understanding of them in regards to the pins that I want to pin to that board. So we did talk about that earlier when we talked about setting up the account and creating the boards.
Somebody asked if you're using alt text. Just to reiterate that, you mentioned that earlier. You're not.
When you use this Pinterest scheduler, so I mean, Pinterest makes things as complicated as they possibly can for us. There are more than one Pinterest scheduler, and it depends on which one Pinterest gives you in your account, whether or not you have the option to add alt text. This scheduler on this account doesn't have the option to add alt text, and so I'm not worrying about it. When I pinned with the OneUp app when I was on vacation, that uses this Pinterest scheduler. Like OneUp app uses this scheduler. It's a little bit ridiculous to try to understand, but this is how I understand it. And so because it uses this scheduler, this is like the old original Pinterest scheduler, it has the opportunity to add alt text here. And so when I was pinning with OneUp app, I did use the alt text because it was available to me, but it's not available to me on this scheduler. And so I'm just not worrying about it.
Okay. Somebody wants to know what your timeline is. When did you publish your first recipe? When did you start the Pinterest account? When did you start pinning your own content? When did you hit Journey? And when did you hit Mediavine?
We started the website on July 10th. We started the Pinterest account on September 10th. We started pinning our own domain pins on September 13th. So I started the account and I created some boards and I pinned the 10 third-party pins to them. And then I didn't pin my own pins for 3 days. On September 13th, I started pinning my own domain pins. On October 22nd, we were approved for Journey, and Mediavine ads went live the day before yesterday.
Do your income from this website is just ad revenue? Do you plan on monetizing any other way?
Currently, it is just ad revenue. I have a plan to add a printable party planner to all of the Christmassy type posts. You can add it. This theme that I'm using is like cadence based, so you can add it. You can just insert it into every post with a cadence block really easily. I've never done it myself, so it's a learning curve for me. But on my main site, I sell a printable planner in a blog post that gets a lot of traffic, and people buy it. And so that's not relatable for me because I'm not a planner. Obviously, you get this after I've said that 10 times today. I wouldn't buy a printable planner, but people buy them. And
well, that is a very nice planner. So
yes, it's absolutely fantastic. For everybody that doesn't know, I sell PLR content, and I purchased all of the planners that Sarah designed and used to sell, and they're inside my PLR business. So I am going to use PLR from my membership and sell it on this site is the plan. Yeah.
What about Tailwind? Do you use the OneUp app? Why not Tailwind?
Well, I'm hesitant about third-party schedulers to begin with. The only reason I used the OneUp app was because I was going on vacation and I needed to do something. I think that you can use Tailwind just as safely as the OneUp app, provided that you are not relying too much on Tailwind's set it and forget it features. Anytime that you feel like Pinterest is becoming set it and forget it, you are in danger of damaging your Pinterest account. You need to be in control about what you are posting.
Can you please go over how the $10,000 was allocated for your new site?
I purchased 263. We have seen, well, actually I've purchased a few more because we have a few more that aren't published yet. So I've purchased close to 300 recipes. Actually, I have since seeing the success of this account on Pinterest, I've actually invested a a couple more $1,000. So I'm actually at about 12, but up to the point of the content that we were talking about that you were looking at today, that was 10. That was about 225, 50 recipes. So the money went into those, and the money went into paying my VA to actually post the posts. And the money went into some of the plugins and stuff that we talked about earlier when we talked about the site setup. I bought the Cookie Yes plugin. I bought a theme for the website. I bought Hubbub, which is like the Pinterest, the social sharing plugin.
Yeah.
Used free Yoast. I don't think I paid for Yoast. So that is where the expense was. I already had one up app because I've used it on my main site for the past year.
How do you expect your traffic curve to go this month? Does it peak at Christmas or before then, and then will it drop off completely in January? What are your thoughts on that?
So it'll peak on the 25th. Maybe there'll be a little bit of residual traffic on the 26th. I'm pretty confident in that because Mommy on Purpose also gets a lot of seasonal traffic because we publish a lot of seasonal things. Quarter 4 is always our biggest quarter, and the traffic for Christmas drops right off after Christmas. No waiting. This year we're doing, on this site, we're doing a very slight few New Year's Eve posts. I don't personally like to invest a lot into New Year's Eve because the season is literally 6 days, starting after Christmas and going till New Year's Day. To me, it's not nearly as valuable as the Christmas period, which is going to take like almost a whole month. Like you can see, I'm already earning on Christmas posts. And they will earn all the way till the 26th, whereas the New Year's ones get a week. The drop after Thanksgiving was to about, I think the lowest page view day was 2,200 page views this week. I can actually look right now in Google Analytics and tell you. But it's already on the way back up. I expect the drop after Christmas to be very similar. Yesterday we had 3,400 page views. So it went from 2 days ago, 2,200 page views to 3,400 page views yesterday because the traffic's already climbing again. I am switching gears now from publishing Christmas things into pushing out more evergreen things. So if you look at the account, you can see that this week I started publishing like these, like the homemade pretzel bites, and tomorrow I have going out not tomorrow. I guess it's a couple days from now. These mini pigs in a blanket, like they're kind of Christmassy, but they're also going to be great for all kinds of evergreenness.
Super Bowl is a great holiday for appetizers. That's in February.
We have already got those out and they are
Nice.
already climbing. So
Nice.
if you look at the analytics here, there's definitely been consideration given to the fact that that we cannot just go off of tailgate party food. This one's already going up. And there's other ones. There's a whole bunch of other pins for this. This is an entire content cluster. It has its own major idea boards. It has multiple major idea boards. We did finger food, or I did football food and game day food ideas. And I plan on introducing more of those. There's no Super Bowl specific keyword because I felt similar to Super Bowl as I did about New Year's Eve. It's one day, so I decided to go for the slightly broader keyword. It
is one day, but I'll tell you, football fans are obsessive, and they're already planning for Kansas City Chiefs. They think they're going back to the Super Bowl again, and they're already planning for their Super Bowl parties. So
okay.
Just a little bit of inside information there.
Okay, so maybe I should have a Super Bowl party.
Buffalo fans over here, people. Buffalo fans. I'm sorry.
Okay. I expect these types of content that aren't really featuring in our conversation right now to immediately start picking up after Christmas, the same way that that the Christmas things are picking up immediately after Thanksgiving. I mean, yes, there's a couple down days, but when we looked at the pins on the individual level, we could see the spikes on the pins on the individual level, and I expect that will happen after Christmas. Going forward for the future, some future planning, we are looking at pinning a few things for Valentine's Day. Again, I don't expect it to be as big as Christmas, but there'll be a few things out there. And then going really hard after the summer content, because I see summer to be similar in this niche as Christmas, in that there is just such a vast amount of keyword major ideas that we can go after, like pool party and backyard barbecue and 4th of July. There's just all these summer keywords that can be made into major ideas that can reuse the same pieces of content. Like you can serve the same hot cheese dips at the 4th of July party as you do at a graduation party at the end of summer. So we can reuse the content, angle it seasonally, and they'll be the same hot cheese dips that we used for Christmas appetizers. But summer will be the next really big season that we target. We'll do a little bit for Easter also.
I think that I've gotten all of the questions done.
Whew. Okay. I feel great about that.
I guess there's a few coming in that are kind of repeats, and that I would encourage anybody, if they didn't get their questions answered, to watch the replay on double time. And if you didn't get your question answered in this any place, then definitely ask in the Facebook group.
Yes. Before we completely wrap up, Tony, I don't know if Tony is still here because he turned his camera off, but if he's still here, he has a spreadsheet that is so much fun. And I think that is a really high note to end on, because it just gives us so many more insights to the Pinterest account, maybe things that we haven't talked about yet. Tony?
Yeah. Let me share my screen here.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Sent in a request to get that shared. Okay.
It's not working?
Now it is. Okay. You can see my screen?
No.
Yes.
Okay. Just me.
Yep.
Okay. So I've got a tool I've built for myself for right now. And eventually it will come to PinClicks, where basically you can put in any Pinterest account username and it's going to pull all of their pins. So that's what this is right here. It's pulled all the data from all of Carly's pins as of like yesterday or the day before. She has more pins than this, but I think those are third-party pins.
Because there's 10 for every board, and there's a lot of boards.
Yeah. Okay. So it pulled in, the pin link, title, description, number of saves, created date, board name, and all the annotations, and then the URLs. So like the blog posts and the board and all that good stuff. So I pulled in all that data. And then I pulled in the revenue data from Raptive, which is limiting because it's like the top 50 posts, which is kind of a bummer. That's all I could figure out how to pull, but that's fine. So then I want to like kind of combine this data to get some interesting stats. I'll share this Google sheet if you want to dig in with it. But yeah, I started to combine like some of these pins, looking at the amount of revenue that the page made, not that necessarily the pin level. I don't think we could quite figure out that exactly. I mean, maybe if we look at the number of outbound clicks a particular pin had and the number of impressions for that particular page, it might be able to factor in how much a click actually made, or roughly. But I didn't do that at that level. But anyways, that's all the data. Here's some interesting stats. I analyzed.
Is there RPMs in this? Somebody asked about RPMs.
No.
We can talk about the RPMs after if you want.
Yeah, I couldn't. It didn't include the RPMs. It included CPMs,
Oh,
but
On
I
a
guess
Journey, on the Journey page
on
here?
Journey, when I exported from Journey,
Oh,
it does not include RPMs, which is interesting. I guess I could probably calculate that number here in the spreadsheet if we do it by page views. Not sure how Journey does it. If they do it by RPMs by page views or sessions.
my experience with Journey has been great but brief. So I also didn't learn all these things
Okay.
because we literally were with them for
Yeah.
like 1 month and 3 days.
Oh,
So-
okay. Wow. All right. So common pen title words.
I'm sorry, Tony, to interrupt you. Can you drop a copy of a spreadsheet here while
Oh,
we're
yeah, sure.
live? Like,
Oh,
like,
yeah, yeah.
which I mean, I can't see your screen, so maybe there's other people who can't see your screen.
Oh,
But if they have the
mm,
spreadsheet, that will let them follow along with what you're talking about.
yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. There you go.
Okay.
All right. So common pen title words. I thought easy was interesting. So a lot of people like the word easy. I'm not surprised.
I like
I'm
easy.
not super surprised by it. People like quick, easy, fast, cheap.
Yeah.
Those kind of words, right? So those are good power words to include in your pins. And then the word for, I highlighted that because it's a great way to kind of differentiate your pins
Can I ask a
and
question?
kind of find a unique angle about it. Okay.
I need to ask
Yeah.
a question. So, like we looked at in the
Yep.
actual pin creation process,
Yeah.
I do add 4 in like probably more than 50% of the pins I'm putting out because I edit the pin title to be
Yep.
relevant to the board. So these are pumpkin cookies for a bake sale. These are
Yeah.
cute Santa Claus cookies for kids. I put 4 in a lot of them. So is the fact that 4 is showing up there a lot, is that a function of how much I used it
Yeah.
or
That's
how
all.
well people? Okay, so it's not necessary.
And this is all data from the top 100 performing pins.
Okay.
Yeah. So your top pins. This was a common, and this could have been a common word among, if I did analysis of all 800, because maybe you just included that often enough.
Okay.
But yeah, it's a great way, a great little transition word to like really make this idea specific to a certain audience or season or some sort of unique aspect of it. Another one, ideas. Obviously, Pinterest is all about ideas, but including the word ideas was very powerful and popular for your top performing pins. Those stuck out to me. Of course, the letter A, the word A. That doesn't really mean a whole lot, but anything there that sticks out to you, Carly?
Okay, well, I can't see this. I can't
Oh,
see what
yeah.
you're looking at. But
Can you saw the link though? You can pull that up.
yes, true. Okay, but Renee has pointed out the thing that shocked me. She said she's quite surprised that the individual recipe outperforms the listicle if she's seen that properly. And last night we were emailing
Yeah.
about this. You said, "Oh, that's difficult to like, oh my goodness, formulate like a decision about," because you said you thought that I had published the roundups later, but that's actually not true. I published the roundups early because I wanted them out early because I knew they were going to be strong pins. I was blown away that the individual recipes like
Mhm.
kept up revenue wise with the
Yeah.
listicles. I don't know
Yeah.
if that's what you're talking about, Renee, but revenue wise, there's only like $300 difference in earnings between the listicles and the revenue and the individual posts. Now, some of that's because people click through the roundups into the individual
Mhm.
posts, right?
Mhm.
But I was still blown away by that. It
Yep.
really, Shanna said, what are we looking at? Shanna, we're looking at the spreadsheet that Tony dropped in here. So if you open it up.
So this
So
is,
maybe,
Tony, this isn't a tool that you've created to look at your competition. This is just data you've collected from Carly's site, right?
that's right. Yeah.
Okay.
Because this whole live is about sharing the data from this site so that we can all
Yep.
take away our insights for it.
Yeah.
So underneath the tab on the bottom, you've got tabs. You've got all revenue, top 100, interesting stats, and then you've got revenue by type. And that's what I'm talking about, where
Yep.
the earnings from listicles was 1,302.66, and the earning from individual recipes was 1,011 and 79. And you made good arguments about like, this isn't session RPM, right? That's what you said. This isn't session RPM, it's page RPM. But
Yeah.
I was still really blown away by this. I expected the individual recipes to make a lot less money.
Interesting. I didn't know what to expect, but now that I think about it, it, it makes sense to me why it's kept up. And that is because, well, if you have good recipes, people are going to keep the page up while they're making the recipe, right? And so that could take
Yes.
like, so depending on how long it takes to make the recipe, 30 minutes, 90 minutes, you have
Right.
ads constantly refreshing. That's what my wife does, and she pulls up her laptop to make a
Yeah,
recipe. She just keeps
that's
it
what I
open
do too.
on that page. Yeah. So yeah, that's one way it makes up for the revenue. I see a lot of recipe bloggers who don't post listicles. They don't take their individual recipes and like round them up into a listicle and look at how much revenue you would have lost if you
Mhm.
didn't do that.
Oh, I also don't believe, but let me be real clear about this. I don't believe that the individual recipes, for the most part, would have performed well at all if not for the roundups, because the roundups are the major idea and the listicles are hopefully, or
Mhm.
sorry, the minor ideas are hopefully being drawn out into the feed
Yeah.
based on their relationship to the major idea.
Yeah, because you weren't going after really big recipe topics, right? So I'm
No,
talking about like the
none.
big recipe bloggers who are going after like chicken recipes, right? And so they've got
Yep.
an individual chicken recipe that is getting a lot of distribution in search and the home feed, and they're content with all the traffic and revenue they're making just off posting all their individual recipes. But they're going after
Yes.
those big ideas, big keywords. So they could they could dominate even more by doing more listicles and roundups of all those recipes that they're creating. And
Oh,
it's not going to cost them
100%.
a whole lot other than time. They've already have the content. They just got to put it together and organize it.
Yeah, this is
Yeah.
that applying this concept to an old established site
Yep.
question that we came back to.
Exactly. Yeah.
This is easy to do.
Yeah, so that was a super interesting stat. Unique annotations, coming back over here to the interesting stats tab. November was used a lot, obviously, for Thanksgiving. Crockpot, that was interesting. You didn't really do a lot of crockpot stuff, did you?
I avoided it on purpose because I considered it an entire major idea that
Yeah.
I wasn't going to go after. And um to me, like, there's entire websites on crockpot things. So I specifically didn't go after
Yep.
crockpot. And it's interesting, I think, to note, I'm gonna say 99% sure I also never targeted November.
Yeah. So, right. This is based on annotations.
Yeah.
And so I'm looking at the top 100 tab, and I did a search for November.
Mm-hmm.
And you just see annotations related to November being assigned. And generally, you also see the annotation that includes the word Thanksgiving. So they kind of go hand in hand.
Yeah.
And so that's Pinterest doing its job of connecting the topics together of November and Thanksgiving. And the same idea for classroom. So this one was an interesting one for me to see because I don't think you targeted like classroom specifically, but they showed up
In
as
one or two posts.
so I didn't see. Okay,
Oh,
they weren't the top 100 posts.
Sure, because
Maybe
they're relatively new. Also,
classroom. I'm looking at the all tab and I'm doing a search for classroom and
not
I only
finding
see the use of the word classroom in annotations. I
it. Oh
don't see
yeah.
the I don't see it used in titles or descriptions.
No, I never. Oh, not even in descriptions. Okay, I thought that I had
Uh-uh.
it in one or two descriptions because the kind of content that I was creating, like cute little things that kids could make or be involved in making,
Yep.
that's a huge keyword cluster
Yep.
around like crafty kind of food.
Yep.
It is one that I really wanted to target broadly with a board. I got nervous about it because I'm still jumpy around keywords that are specific to kids. Not in all instances.
Yeah.
But for anybody who's ever been a parenting blogger and who lived through like the Pinterest kids update of
Mhm.
2018, 2019, I was afraid to go after too much and to put too many eggs in the kids basket. So I have for
Okay.
Christmas started Christmas treats for kids.
Yep.
but it did take me the 3 months
Yep.
to prepare myself to do that.
Okay. Well, this is your experimental site, so
Yeah.
I think it's worth trying, and also targeting classroom, right? You have teachers on here looking for
Yeah.
ideas, and they're looking for, yeah, ideas related to the classroom. So that's a great keyword to include for anything that you think could be kid friendly. Just go ahead and throw the word classroom in there. This goes back to what I was saying earlier, like analyzing the words that are being uh, associated with your pins a lot or showing up for searches a lot, those keywords that are popular in your niche, and just make sure you kind of have a process of like, okay, if we're going to cover a topic that is kid oriented, use the word classroom for our niche because it makes sense.
Mhm. And honestly,
Decor,
it's probably less of a risky word than the actual word kids.
that's
So,
true.
yeah.
Yeah. Decor was another interesting one
Hmm.
because you have nothing to like. I was like, what do you have to do with decor? But there was like, I had something to do with trying to find one. Edible. No, thanks. I don't see it.
Was it like
Maybe
table
take,
arrangements?
yeah, table arrangements, table decor, something along those lines.
Okay.
Uh, yeah. For some reason, my eyes are not seeing it. They're getting tired. I think that's what it
It's
is.
6 hours on the computer.
Yeah,
That my eyes
that's
will
what
do
it
that
is.
too.
Okay, so that was an interesting one. So something to pay attention to because these are words that Pinterest is associating with your pins, and maybe there's an opportunity of people who the way that they are looking at, say, like a charcuterie board, maybe it's like part of their table decor setup, right, that they're putting together. So that's kind of a new demographic of people to cover. So that could be a keyword that you start using in your descriptions for certain types of recipes that would be kind of served like on a table in a decor type manner, like a party or whatever.
Awesome.
Yeah. Chicken, that was another interesting one. And gifts, that was interesting.
Gifts is a
Um,
big one that I'm going after now because
okay.
when I was looking at the annotations, I found that whole cluster of keywords for like cookies to make for gifts,
Oh
Christmas
yeah,
treats to make for
that's
gifts. So
right.
I have
That's
a
right.
whole board on gifts and it's a whole multiple idea post, a whole major idea post on gifts, and I'm using it
Yep.
in loads of descriptions.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, that makes sense. Great. Working out well for you. All right, so I won't go down that full list, but an interesting one was listicle versus individual idea posts as far as your outbound clicks and saves, your individual recipes. Okay, remember the revenue that we saw earlier, revenue by type, almost equal. I mean, obviously they round up to a little bit
Mm-hmm.
more, but look at the number of outbound clicks, the number of saves. It just completely overshadows the listicles.
What time frame is that? Because that can't possibly
This is like the
be
last
right.
90, this is the last 90 days.
And you're so this is saying there's only 3,800
Uh,
outbound
uh,
clicks.
no, this is of the top 100 pins.
Wait, how did you get outbound clicks?
I'm sorry, the top 50 pins because you can only get 50, right?
Yeah.
Outbound clicks. So
Oh,
this is just
you went
analyzing. This
into
isn't
my Pinterest account.
that. Yeah, I sure
That's
did.
how you got it.
I
Okay.
downloaded all your
So
data.
how did you
Yep, I
get
snuck
that?
into all of your accounts. If you haven't noticed,
Oh,
I
right.
downloaded
I
everything.
just will give my passwords out.
Yeah, yeah,
I'm actually surprised by that.
yeah.
So only 3,800 outbound clicks on the top in within the top 50 listicles in the past 90 days. I would
That's
have
right.
guessed it was a lot higher based on the
Yeah,
traffic that the site had.
me
And so
too,
that's interesting for me to see.
for sure. Um, and then yeah, saves a click to performance. Thought that was you're just looking at some of these individual pins, understanding like the click to save ratio is something I like to look at sometimes. Get an idea of how well pins like correlate with your saves versus your clicks. And same thing with I like to do that by uh, outbound clicks and also of course impressions and everything. But yeah, so some of these items, it's interesting where you have like a ratio of 10. So that means for every like that ratio of saves to outbound clicks, I put this together yesterday and my brain is getting mushy
Mm.
on what that means. So if anyone wants to chime in, I'll post something about it on Facebook later. But you have a higher ratio of people who are more likely to click with a certain number of saves, average of 10 saves, something like that.
Okay.
Um, yeah. Board performance, there's your recipe roundups.
It's a group board.
That's your group board, right?
Just
Look at that.
shocking.
Look at all those outbound clicks and your saves with only 4 pins. Again, this is the top, like top 100. So
Yeah.
probably have more than that, but
I haven't pinned very heavily to the group boards because of all
Yeah.
the risks of group
Yeah.
boards. So I've been very
Yeah.
strongly focused on my own
yeah,
boards. The party appetizers, easy crowd pleasers, that is also a group board, and so is Christmas party food ideas for a crowd, and so is best comfort food. So
okay.
literally the only 4 group boards that I'm on
Wow.
are on the list of my top performing boards. Now, to be fair, I've been on these group boards longer than a lot of the boards have existed in
Yeah.
my account because I'm always
Okay.
creating more boards every
Yeah.
week. So all the Christmas boards, they've only just been created in the past.
Yeah.
Well, I started pinning Christmas stuff the last week of October. So some of them are as old as the last week of October.
Okay.
But some of them, like the Christmas gifts, which isn't actually on the easy things to make for Christmas gifts, we talked about that one. It's not on this list. It's relatively new. It's only like 3 or 4 days old. So the group boards have been on the account a lot longer than some of the new boards, which skews, but it's interesting to see.
It is. Yeah. The dips to make for a party. That's a great board because it's great. It's relevant to Thanksgiving, but it can also be relevant to Christmas and lots of other holidays. So basically any reason to have a party like Super Bowl, whatever, that's a strong board. So just keep pinning stuff to that one.
Yep, that's one of the evergreen, like foundational things that we're hoping will, carry the site through those less seasonal times. Just like pinwheel appetizers, appetizer ideas for a party, cold dip recipes, easy finger food ideas.
Yeah,
these are all going to be the evergreen things that we'll pin to all the time.
Yep. Cool. And then board engagement. Of course, there are recipe roundups that has most outbound clicks, but see the average clicks per pin, that is huge. 4,000. Of course, there's only 4 pins, right? So you're getting over 4,000 clicks from one pin from that group board.
Well, and truly, it's average. It's probably like I think that the Thanksgiving charcuterie boards one. I think that it is on that one, and I actually think it's more like 13,000 clicks for the one pin.
Yeah. I gotcha. So it's kind of skewing the results there. But I like to look at the metrics like this to understand the average clicks per pin on a board level to get an idea of the boards that are the most click-worthy, my most clickable boards. And I like to focus more on creating pins for those clickable boards.
Yeah, I will absolutely continue pinning to recipe roundups because everything that's a major idea is basically a recipe roundup. So they can all go on there. But like dips to make for a party, there's a lot more opportunity there for pinning the individual dip recipes yet. And actually it's interesting if we were to look at the post titles, like the dips to make for a party roundup pin is doing really well, but individual dip recipes have also done really well. That TikTok boat dip individually is one of the best performing blog posts on the site, and that's almost certainly because of its relationship to the strong board and the strong listicle. And it means that other dips to make for a party that I publish in the future could do well, and we haven't actually managed to publish all of our dips made to make for a party to that board yet because it's evergreen and because that evergreen kind of got put on the back burner as the seasonal stuff came out. So there's probably another 6 or 7 blog posts that still need to be pinned to that board, and I should definitely prioritize them as we work on our evergreen stuff.
That's what I would do. So one of the things that I teach in my course is to every month export your data out of Pinterest Analytics and bring it into a spreadsheet. I think I have a template in my course that you can use, and basically start collecting this data over time because this site has only been around for a couple of months, so some of this data is kind of skewed. But when your account has been around for a year or longer, that's when it just continues to become more valuable looking at the information this way. So, because
Definitely.
you have a lot more data over time, and Pinterest will eventually won't let you go back. I think they let you go back like 16 months or something, maybe a full 2 years, and that's it. And then your data's gone. So that's why I like to archive it myself, and then you can analyze it yourself over time.
Yeah.
Look at
And
these
that's
data trends.
really smart. Somebody has asked me recently, like, how can you go back and see what were your strongest pins in, 2020? You literally can't. I can tell you what mine were because I routinely open all my top pins in the window, like we looked at on this account, and I spend enough time with them that I know what my strongest pins were through history. Um, if that's not something that you've done in the
Mhm.
past, that's not information you can ever collect again, which is
Yeah.
really frustrating.
Yeah. So get in the habit of exporting your data once a month. It takes like 5, 10 minutes. Just set a calendar reminder. Your future self will thank you.
Yes,
Uh,
absolutely.
okay, so we did revenue by type and the revenue by board. We look at that. Nope. Yeah, the recipe roundup scores, that makes sense. That was one of the strongest boards, so it's going to have the
Mhm.
most revenue. But again, just try to understand over time as you collect this data and put it into a spreadsheet like this, it really helps for me focus my efforts on like where do I want to continue to create content for, create pins for that's going to have like the highest revenue, highest RPMs, that kind of stuff. I like to look at that and have a good understanding. So I usually have a good idea. Like once you look at this enough, then you have a good idea of the kind of content to continue to create pins for so you can keep your revenue up. Sometimes revenue drops, maybe your Pinterest traffic hasn't dropped as much. And that could be because you had some pins that were high RPM pins for you, high revenue earning pins, but they naturally dropped out, but they got replaced with some other pins from different topics that maybe just didn't earn as much ad revenue for you. And so I just like to pay attention to those high earning boards and pins and make sure I don't keep my eye off those.
Yeah, it was really interesting for me to see turkey cookies on there. I made turkey cookies as kind of like it was kind of a crazy experiment because I thought to myself, I have all these really great posts. I know if the users could find them and engage with them, that they would do well. But I thought that it was too granular to do well. And I only made it because I already had all the content. So it wasn't something I planned out like,
Mm.
I'm going to collect 10 turkey cookie recipes and make a roundup for it. Because I have seen how well turkey cookies performed, that's why we have reindeer treats. Even though remember earlier in the live we
Mhm.
talked about how granular reindeer treats was and how that was
Yep.
kind of like a kind of out of left field, like people are going to
Yeah.
search more Christmas cookies than they are reindeer treats. Well, at the granular level, turkey cookies did really well, and so looking forward, there's no reason why reindeer treats can't do well. We have a ton of snowman recipes. I think that they could do really well. Also, I didn't create it because time because it's only been 3 months and we're talking about 275
Yeah.
blog posts and because I was doing it myself. Now that I'm going to be having a VA help me on this site, we'll be able to do more of those things.
Oh, cool. Good.
Yeah,
Yeah, it would
excited.
be good if I could figure out RPMs for this. I will do a little bit of research and see what I can do because also being able to look at this at the RPM level, just because this can be skewed in the sense that you might have had like one pin that drove a ton of outbound clicks, so got a lot of traffic, and then thus it got a lot of revenue. But I also like to
Yes.
look at the RPM basis because that kind of evens the playing field to a degree, and gives you a more average idea of how much a board is making you. Um, so it's a primarily a better way to go about it if you can get your RPM data exported.
Yeah. So uh, I was pleasantly surprised by the RPMs that Journey was able to gather, within a relatively short period of time. The first day that they launched, I think the site had like a 30-cent RPM, and I was like, oh, um, but it did go up. That said, like it's important to remember and to talk about the fact that this site grew and had its first experience with ads in the 2 weeks before Thanksgiving or 3 weeks before Thanksgiving, which are literally the highest ad spend weeks of the entire year. And so that is going to skew the data a little bit. I mean, it's great to know for next year and to start preparing for that. And we can still expect the higher earning posts to be higher earning. They might not be as high earning all year round. I mean, the site was making over $150 a day by the time Thanksgiving hit. It's probably not realistic for me to expect it to make $150 a day through February or January. That might be realistic in the summer by the time I've doubled the traffic, which I hope to do with all our evergreen summer things that we're doing. So, but yeah, that is a consideration, that the RPMs right before Thanksgiving will have, although now it's going to be on Mediavine instead of Journey, and so the RPM should be that much higher again. So maybe that'll make up for the difference in the seasonal shift. The Mediavine RPMs should be much higher than the Journey ones were.
Should be.
Yeah. Is there anything else on the spreadsheet that we should talk about, or any questions that anybody had now that we've looked at the spreadsheet?
That was it for the spreadsheet.
Okay.
Yeah. If people have more questions, I can post them in the Facebook group.
Yeah, definitely. We can, boy, I feel like how can we create the spreadsheet for ourselves?
You should be able to go to like file, make a copy for that Google sheet, and you can see the formulas I used. So it just matter of replacing the data.
Okay. Somebody asked, have I ever found annotations on a pin that have nothing to do with the pin or the content on the site? Yes, it happens. When you're choosing your annotations to target, don't retarget those ones. Just ignore them, because it definitely happens. But people pin your pins to other boards, and Pinterest might think that there's a relationship there, or they accidentally pin it to the wrong board, or anything like that. So yes, it happens. Don't panic about it. If you are consistently always putting out pins that never have any annotations related to what you want the pin to be about, there might be a red flag there in your process. But if it's just happening randomly once in a while, definitely don't worry about it. Okay. I think, do I pay my VI hourly? Yes, she's paid hourly. I think that we have, like, boy, I figured we might hit 5 hours, but this has been 6.5 hours. I have really enjoyed it. I feel like we are probably all really done. But there will be opportunity to ask questions in the group. Please make use of the group. That is part of what you've paid for. I think that we are going to try to timestamp the video with like timestamps about where different concepts are. Tony's much more organized than I am, and this is his very good idea. So we will have that.
Is that something that I have to do when I download it? How do you do that?
No, that's okay. If you can hang around, Sarah, for 5 minutes after, okay. And Tony and April are here, we can have a quick talk about that after.
Sounds good. And I encourage anybody who's still here who wants to download the chat notes. There's the 3 dots by the meeting above chat. You can download that for yourself, and I'm going to try to also do it to drop that link in the group as well.
That's great. And we will try to have it cleaned up inside you'll all get the recordings for this. They'll be in Thrivecart Learn, so I'll have to figure out how to get those to you, probably through a coupon code to your email. But you'll be able to have them to keep. And when will the video be available? It will be available as soon as possible. So I don't know how long it takes to download a 6.5 hour video. And then we are going to get it timestamped and uploaded into Thrivecart Learn. I'm guessing that with the timestamping, it'll take a few days before it's available, unfortunately. But yeah, it'll be a 10 terabyte. I don't know. It's a good thing that Sarah had a computer with room on it. I am so glad, Cassie, that you enjoyed it. And I know that like PinClicks, there's so much more that we could talk about as far as how to use PinClicks. And so Tony and I have talked about if we can do a live for everybody broadly about how to use PinClicks better. I think that is something that is still on our radar. So we'll definitely let you know when that happens. Because the truth is that I am still learning about it all the time. But man, it has really changed my Pinterest life in the past few months. So yeah. Okay, I think that's it. Thank you all again for being here. I am wondering if you're gonna go home and start 5 new sites. Oh right, I know. I'm starting 2 new sites in the new year, but they're secrets. I'm not gonna tell anybody about them. So you don't know about them. Nobody knows about them. If we want to talk, Tony and April, Sarah, if we end this, or do we just wait for people to leave and then we'll just be here, or how?
I'm gonna stop recording.
Okay.
I think I have to figure out how to do that. And everybody can just leave as they see fit.
Okay. That sounds good.
Let's see, recording.